Everyone at RUSA for inviting us here and having this event and getting the food and inviting everyone here. I think it's really great that so many of you have turned out to support this debate and support the idea of discourse. We are here to discuss the issue of whether the invitation to make Condoleezza Rice the 2014 Rutgers commencement speaker should be rescinded or upheld. And we are here in part to fulfill the words of President Robert Barchi. After the Faculty Council made a declaration that the invitation should be rescinded, he sent an email to all staff 20 days ago, all staff and students, and he said, among other things, quote, "My hope is that we can use these seemingly controversial moments to reaffirm our commitment to open and civil discourse. Indeed, they provide strong evidence of a healthy and engaged university community. I will continue to work with you to guarantee the university remains a space where ideas can be considered, discussed, and debated, a space that embraces and defends civil discourse, free speech, and academic freedom." So we are here to embrace that mandate, to consider, to discuss, and to debate controversial issues. And it is essential that when we disagree, especially vehemently, we are able to come together in a venue such as this to have civil discourse about our disagreements and to take the time not only to speak our mind, but to listen to others. I know perhaps of no better format for this experience than a formal public debate. So in a moment, you will hear from these 6 distinguished members of the Rutgers University Debate Union, which is currently the 6th ranked debate team in the country. Princeton, for reference, is 12th. I have coached the debate union here for the last 5 years, and they've worked tirelessly and impressively to improve their skills and take on some of the most difficult and pressing issues of our time with relevance to university students, people all around the state, the country, and the globe. And they have continually surpassed my expectations. And tonight they will engage in one of these key questions facing our administration, faculty, staff, and students. And I look forward to it very much. So a few words about the format of the debate that you're going to see here tonight. We practice something called parliamentary debate, which is modeled off of the British Parliament, and the positions are called the government team and the opposition team. So the government team will stand in support of the resolution, advocating that the invitation should indeed be rescinded, and the opposition team will oppose that motion. They will speak in turn, but government has the privilege of speaking first and last because they hold the burden of proof. So you will hear both first and last from the speaker, and there will be back-to-back speeches in the middle from the opposition. So each team will have 3 speeches, they will have equal time, and I will be moderating and keeping time. Many debate formats have a specific question and answer period, but in our format, that is more on the fly. So we have what we call points of information, where individuals rise to indicate that they want to ask a question. The speaker does not have to take a question at any given time, but it's expected that they take one in each of the first 4 speeches. And it looks kind of funny. It comes from our parliamentary roots, where people will make a motion something like this, which it comes from the old days when they had wigs in Parliament, and if they would rise up out of their chairs so quickly that if they didn't cover their wigs, they would reveal that they were in fact bald, and the wig would fly off, and it would be embarrassing and override their question. So you will see that in practice tonight. So that's a bit about the format. Now allow me please to introduce the 6 speakers who will be representing both sides of the resolution in tonight's debate. So representing the government, we have R.B. Laveshi as the Prime Minister. He is a 4th year majoring in political science. R.B. represented Rutgers at Nationals 2 years ago and is on the verge of qualifying for Nationals again this year. And he and his partner are in the top 40 national rankings for individual partnerships of 2 people. We have several teams in that top 40. Rachel Moon is the member of government. She is a junior majoring in planning and public policy and is the former public relations chair of the debate union. And she is one of 5 of our debaters currently fully qualified for the national championships. Sean Leonard is the government whip. He is a sophomore majoring in political science and is the current vice president of the debate union. He is currently the 13th ranked individual speaker in the country and is qualified for nationals for the 2nd year in a row. Representing the opposition, Daimler Vad-Lemurray is the leader of opposition. He is a senior majoring in biological sciences and has been debating for the debate union since 2010 and has won several awards in the last 3 years and is one of many debaters on the team headed for medical school. Deepta Janardhan is the member of opposition. She's a senior majoring in economics and political science and is a former novice mentor of the debate union, and she and her partner are also in the top 40 of the national rankings for individual partnerships. And finally, Alex Jubb is the opposition whip. She is a senior majoring in planning and public policy and is the former alumni coordinator of the debate union, and she and her partner finished in the top 25 at the national championships last year. So I must emphasize that the views that will be expressed by these 6 individuals tonight do not necessarily represent their own personal viewpoints. So one of the great things about debate as a format and as an activity is that it trains us to understand both sides of any given question and any given debate, as hopefully you will tonight. So without further ado, I call this House to order and invite the Right Honorable Prime Minister, R.B. Laveshi, to open the round on the resolution that Rutgers should disinvite Condoleezza Rice as this year's commencement speaker.
Hear, hear. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an incredible honor to be here debating this heavily contested issue before you all. Today, we on the government side will defend rescinding the commencement invitation towards Condoleezza Rice. Rutgers University is not only a state school, it is a representation of the student body as a whole. We don't just stand as a name, but rather as a collective group of ideals that we hold dear. In our modern society, there are things that we must oppose. These are things that stand outside of the realm of political issues. We don't take stances against taxes or policies or abide lines between Democratic and Republican, yet there are a number of things that are inherently bad, regardless of what stances you hold. Torture, war crime, and the restriction of information does not suddenly become acceptable if you believe in liberal or conservative values. These are violations of human rights, violations of the functioning of a democracy. Acceptance of these notions becomes a collective action problem. They should not stand against them because others do not. Someone has to be the first to break that bulwark, to stand against objective injustice and set the precedent that these things will not be tolerated. That stand starts today. The Iraq Body Count Project estimates the total number of deaths from direct combat in the Iraq War at 115,000, including thousands of Americans. Condoleezza Rice personally continued to push the narrative that weapons of mass destruction were being developed in Iraq. She appeared on CNN with the controversial statement that the smoking gun should not be a mushroom cloud and pushed the war narrative through multifaceted testimony which depicted Iraq as a growing and powerful threat in the Middle East. Now, we know that Iraq's nuclear program had been dead for a decade, ladies and gentlemen, and that its capacity to develop said weapons was constantly dwindling ever since. People might find it difficult to swallow that our intelligence agencies had not scratched the surface of Saddam's inner circle ever since our major military conflict in 1990. Fortunately, ultimately, we understand that in 2002, Dr. Rice was privy to CIA intelligence, which denied the existence of a WMD program within Iraq. CIA Director George Tenet personally approached President Bush, Vice President Cheney, and Dr. Rice, the National Security Advisor at the time, with evidence coming explicitly from Saddam's inner circle. Say what you want about the Central Intelligence Agency, but it does its job. Sadly, intelligence is only as useful as long as it's put to good use. When it is ignored, that is hindering information, that is creating a deviation from democracy, and that is lying to the American populace. In March 19, 2003, we invaded Iraq with evidence which directly contradicted our public claims. Dr. Rice was complicit in the actions of an administration which has essentially destroyed a nation and killed thousands of individuals. She played on the fears of Americans by portraying a distant Middle Eastern nation as a growing and malicious threat. When we honor individuals, we consider them to be heroes. When we honor individuals, we think of those actions and we think of what actions should be emulated and encouraged. Ask yourselves right now, does this woman deserve to be considered a hero? This woman is not a paragon of truth. She lied to Americans. This woman is not a paragon of mediation. She chose war over continued negotiation with the Iraqi government. This woman is not a paragon of cooperation, as her administration ignored the United Nations when declaring war. At best, Dr. Rice is an individual who treated the lives of Americans and Iraqis as things to be thrown away in a wanton manner, all the while having the power to put an end to it, having the power to change things by using her voice. Instead, she chose to do nothing, which means at worst, she is a war criminal. Dr. Rice was also directly complicit in the condoning of waterboarding as an interrogation technique. You can call it enhanced interrogation, but the Geneva Convention clearly considers it torture. The international community considers it torture, and the United Nations considers it torture. Waterboarding, which is a merciless technique which causes constant suffering and long-term psychological damage to individuals, was allowed to continue under this administration because of this woman's support. Now, I ask you for a minute to imagine Condoleezza waterboarding some poor victim, because in all honesty, condoning waterboarding and enacting that are not at all different. According to a Daily Targum editorial, a commencement speaker is meant to be someone who has made some extraordinary and meaningful accomplishments in their lives to inspire a generation of college graduates. Rice probably has a lot of advice on perseverance, dedication, and hard work that she can offer to this year's graduating class. But what she chose to do with those qualities is certainly questionable to us. We on the government side stand with this statement. The impact of Dr. Rice as a commencement speaker is in itself also a contentious issue, and undermines the overall environment of commencement. Her actions in the past will loom over like a specter over the graduates she speaks to. For too many individuals, her words will fall on deaf ears, either because they consider her a despicable individual, or because they have chosen to walk out, imitating protests in Boston College during the commencement in 2006. Normally, during commencement, the speaker is considered a moral paragon by the entire audience, not half of it. Commencement is supposed to be a day that celebrates the hard work and accomplishment of Rutgers graduates. It is supposed to be about them and focus on them. Instead, it will be focused on controversy, walkouts, and political divisiveness. It will cease to be about the graduates and their accomplishments and turn to Condoleezza's past. When considering how we have come to this situation, we need an understanding of how Dr. Rice was selected to be the commencement speaker. Normally, commencement speakers are nominated by faculty members. This year, the Rutgers faculty was told that their nominations were unnecessary and that a speaker had been chosen. While Dr. Rice's selection has been championed as a demonstration of discourse in action, it is surprisingly ironic that she was selected as the commencement speaker solely by the Board of Governors. There was no internal debate, and when faculty members asked to explain their stance to the board on the next meeting, they were denied and alerted to their absence in a previous board meeting they had never been made aware of. Currently, 350 opposing the board's decision. This is not the type of divide we want in a university environment. In an ideal world, this choice would be left up to the board and student body. There is a bitter irony behind the fact that President Barkey has complained the decision is set in stone. After all, discourse is only meaningful when we have the power to enact change, when we can actually use that discourse to change the status quo. Here, we take a moral stance. Today, we have the opportunity to proclaim that Rutgers students proudly stand shoulder to shoulder with our faculty in opposition of this decision. Because of this, we happily propose this resolution.
Hear, hear.
I thank the speaker for his...
Thank you for coming today. It's a tremendous honor to be debating for the university and the students on a topic of such importance, not only to our community, but the nation at large. The debate we should be having today is not about the policies enacted by Dr. Rice, by the administration, but rather her accomplishments in the world and in American political history. We should view this as an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of her graduates by having such a highly accomplished woman speak at commencement. The first argument we're going to be presenting on our side is why Dr. Rice is deserving of this honor. You're a Democrat or a Republican. As President Barkey said, one cannot dispute the fact that Dr. Rice is one of the most influential, intellectual, and political figures of the last 50 years. And the students who have devoted 4 years to this institution deserve to hear her speak. Dr. Rice, born in Alabama in 1954, growing up through the civil rights movement, has faced her share of hardships in her life. She's seen the hardships of the civil rights movement and has faced many challenges and has risen to them. Society has said that she could not have achieved this, but she's done so. What can we learn from this as individuals? We can look at her as a source of motivation so that we can embody what she's achieved in her life onto our own. Coming from humble beginnings, she's managed to enact change not only as the first woman of color, but as the first female to be Secretary of State and a National Security Advisor, which is the fundamental definition of a role model, right? Something who we can all aspire to be or all can follow. On the political spectrum, not only did she successfully initiate diplomatic and bilateral talks under the Bush administration, but also work towards promoting gender equality in the military. We should ask ourselves, if someone who has played such an important role in our American political history is not deserving of the honor to speak at commencement, then who is? The second argument we'd like to talk about today is about discourse and political censorship. It prides itself on being a liberal institution and a historic college of ideas. But if we restrict Dr. Rice from speaking at commencement, we're not protecting free speech or academic freedom, and effectively just excluding those with whom we disagree. In addition, we're not only limiting the students to experience what she has to say, but also limiting the discourse that it would have created. Our prestigious university, the 8th oldest university in this nation, will not be remembered for all of our accomplishments, but be remembered as the institution which has rescinded the invitation to let a former Secretary of State, an African-American woman who grew up in a working-class family in the segregated South, to the highest echelon of world power and politics, speak to the graduates of the class of 2014. Simply because there's a group of individuals who oppose Dr. Rice, rescinding the invitation undermines the democratic ideals of this institution and this country at large. Rutgers, a public university whose mission is to produce students who perform public service in support of the needs of the citizens of the state and its local, county, and state governments, ought to be an apolitical institution. But the moment we take action is when we make an active political statement going against our mission statement. The third point that we'd like to talk about is the public perception of rescinding this invitation. Rescinding the invitation for our former Secretary of State will be viewed upon as an embarrassment to not only the university, but our state at large. New Jersey Republican State Assemblywoman Mary Pat Angelini called the Rutgers faculty decision, quote, appalling and an embarrassment to our state, and said that this is due to, quote, their hatred of an opposing ideology and President George W. Bush in particular. Rescinding an invitation, which often never happens at universities, is a very big deal. And if we do something of that status to Dr. Condoleezza Rice, it's not only a statement against our university, but against her and her status as an individual. We say that that is not only a form of public shaming, but the utmost disrespect you could give any individuals at this status. But you disagree.
You say that this is the hatred of an opposing ideology. Which ideology in America condones torture?
You're here.
So, it was not exactly torture. We say that it was which were done in order to make sure for the safety and security of our country, to make sure for the safety and security of Americans that we live and talk with every day. That said, let's go to the arguments which they seem to preside. The first thing that they talk about is about the idea of torture and war crimes and violation of human rights. We tell you that Dr. Rice did not actually enact these policies, did not make these policies or pass them, right? She was a member of the Bush administration and simply did her job in carrying out what she was told to do. The idea about WMDs in Iraq and the information that they had at the time is something that they fundamentally believed was present, information which they thought was actually legitimate. Now we come to find out it's not so, but that does not mean that they falsely sent forth information to the American public. They seem to say that Dr. Rice was also complicit in the role in the Iraq War, but we say that she was carrying her duty out in the Bush War as that she was listening to the policies and carrying them out, and not actually enacting policies and enacting the change that we saw. They seem to talk about more techniques such as waterboarding and how Dr. Rice being chosen by the Board of Governors was not done so in a proper manner. We have to look at, though, all political leaders and political figures in society today. Like, we have President Barack Obama. Obama has authorized drone strikes in sovereign nations and has played a role with the NSA in terms of surveillance administrations of individuals. Should we not invite President Obama to speak? Should we oppose his views in this matter? Should we lead protests in this figure? We say that's not exactly true, right? We say that advanced interrogation techniques in protecting American liberties is very important in order to ensure our national security. In terms of how Dr. Rice was chosen by the Board of Governors, we have to look at what actually happened. In 2012, the faculty of the Rutgers administration was presented with a list of individuals who could speak at the commencement in 2014, but they never showed up to the Board of Governors in order to give their view on this commencement speakers. Therefore, having this opportunity but not enacting, not attaching, not coming to it is a big problem on their part. So what does the debate come down to? We say that as an administrator, as a Secretary of State, we should look at whether Condoleezza Rice did what was in her power and did what was best for her country and the world at large. Today, we see that Saddam Hussein is out of power. We see that there is no more a tyranny in Iraq. We see that many individuals who would have otherwise died or faced troublesome situations are not in that position anymore. Insofar as we have more democratic institution and a leader who provides motivation, we think that she is the right person to speak at commencement. We are happy to oppose.
Hear, hear.
I thank the speaker for his remarks. I now call the honorable member of the government, Rachel Moon, to continue the case for the government side.
Hear, hear. Rachel.
Thanks everybody for gathering here today for what I think is a really important issue that all students should be concerned with. I'm going to first address the points that Daimler made and then go on to reiterate what RB said and also reinforce why Daimler's responses to them weren't adequate. So the first thing that Daimler comes up here and says is that, why Dr. Rice deserves this honor. He says the debate should be about her policies. It should not be about her policies, but rather her accomplishment. We should focus on the idea that this woman who came from nothing achieved so much within the administration and rose to such a high level of position. So here's a distinction that I would like to clearly make during this round. We are not opposing her for her identity, for what she is, for who she is, and for what kinds of So we're not opposing her for her political affiliations or her viewpoints or anything like that. What we are opposing her is what she's chosen to do with all those hoops that she's leapt through to get to the point where she is. We say that we are opposing her actions, not her ideologies. This is why. So this is the distinction that we want to make. We are fine with inviting anybody, whether they be Republicans or Democrats or even Tea Partiers or anybody with a viewpoint that maybe differs from those that the majority of the students hold. But what we are not condoning, but the reason why we're not condoning that Dr. Rice be our commencement speaker is the idea that she specifically put things into motion that have hurt so many people, that have taken away lives and misled the American public. She used her position in the public sphere in a dishonorable manner that does not actually warrant her becoming a commencement speaker, which is a position of high honor, because what a commencement speaker means for a university is that that person embodies the ideals and the morality of what the university would like to see in its students, both within the school and outside when they graduate, which is why we select them to speak at graduation. I don't think that this woman embodies any of those ideals insofar as she misled the American public and led to such destruction of both the Middle Eastern people as well as the American people. The second point that Daimler talks about is the idea of discourse and censorship. He says Rutgers is a liberal institution and we shouldn't be limiting the extent to which we can have a discourse about this. But here's the problem we have with that argument. We're fine with her having inviting her to speak on any other platform that doesn't give her the highest distinction that a university could bestow upon somebody who did not actually attend the school. For example, we had people like Speaker Nancy Pelosi come this Monday. I would be fine if some other organization on campus invited Dr. Rice to come speak. But what we didn't do was bestow Speaker Pelosi with an honor or anything like that. I think this is a distinction because a lot of people say, well, so many people can be invited to the university to speak about a lot of things. We're fine with having Dr. Rice come on those grounds. We're not fine with having her be the ideal role model that we put forth for the graduating class of 2014. Daimler also talks about this idea that we'll be remembered as a college that denied a woman with such a great career to come and speak. Here's the thing that I want to make very, very clear. I am fine with being remembered as a college that denied this woman the right to speak in our commencement, which, by the way, there is no right to speak at a commencement speech. It is an invitation-only event. In that case, we're not barring anyone's freedom of speech. I don't have a right to go up there and speak as a commencement speaker, even though I do have freedom of speech. This is a very different thing. And we also would tell you that I'm fine being remembered as at college if it means that we stood up for something greater, which is that we don't condone people who use these kinds of human torturing or violate human rights and things like that. The third thing that Daimler talked about is the idea of public reception. He says this is an embarrassment to Rutgers University. We shouldn't be giving out invitations and rescinding it. So here's the thing. We say, one, it's more embarrassing to not stand up for what we recognize is right, which is that we should respect human rights and should not mislead the public through the powers of your career. And we also would say it's more embarrassing to not stand up for those kinds of things just because you think it'll optically look bad for your university. We also would tell you that we actually think that the public reception of this is going to be the impetus to make President Barchi or whoever makes these kinds of decisions, the board of governors, make it so that this is a more inclusive process for the future, so that we don't have these kinds of things occurring, so that we know that the students are 100% behind the kinds of commencement speakers that we would like to have represented in our college. Because I think that's a really important thing. We think that one of the bigger issues with this debate is not only about Dr. Rice herself, but also about the fact that it was chosen in a manner in which students and other faculty members at large didn't really have a say. But I'm going to get to that on case, or in the addressing the points that Arby made, which I will do so now. So the first thing that Arby talked to you about was how this is, Rutgers University is representative of students. We're a collective of ideals. So this is what Daimler's response to this was. He says, well, Dr. Rice didn't actually make these policies that Arby spoke about, which he spoke about the over 100,000 deaths that occurred because of the wars and her denying or her perpetuating the myth that there are weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East, and her condoning the use of violent tactics. So we would say that she had the ability as a high-ranking cabinet member to influence these decisions, and she didn't actually do that. We would give you the example of Colin Powell during the Bush administration, who resigned because he didn't agree with the tactics that the Bush administration was using. We think that Dr. Rice always had a choice to not go along with these kinds of things, but chose to do so, and what's worse, lie about it. They give you the example of President Barack Obama and the drones, right? So one, we would say we're fine saying that we don't think that we should be inviting President Barack Obama to speak at our commencements because of his usage of drones, but I also think that this example isn't analogous to the extent of Dr. Rice, because of the fact that we would tell you, remember what Arby told you, that Dr. Rice publicly went on air and made the conscious decision to keep misleading the American public about the presence of weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East. But President Obama did not do such a thing, and even if he hadn't done it, we still don't think that we should be inviting him to come. We also told you the idea that Dr. Rice was also directly implicit, like things encouraging waterboarding and things like that. So that they also say she didn't make these policies, but even if she didn't enact them, even if she wasn't the one to propose them or anything like that, she still went and did it, and it was never stopped under her administration. We think everybody in that administration was probably, if they were complicit in that, we still wouldn't be asking them to speak. But you disagree.
Would you still be okay with inviting Obama to speak, even though he's publicly on file to saying that he was involved in the NSA administration?
So I think I just made it pretty clear that we wouldn't really support President Barack Obama coming either way because of all the human rights violations that were occurred, which is through the use of drones. But the last thing that, but also what RB told you that I want to remind you was the idea that a commencement speaker should inspire the next line of graduates to do what she wants. So here's the thing, we grant degrees to graduates, to students at Rutgers who have put in the work of being here for 4 years or however many years for graduate year and law school, because we want to reward the work that they have done, in addition to acknowledging that those students, while accomplishing those the work that they were supposed to be doing, also adhere to a certain code of ethics and the honor code within that the school endorses, because the school actually does have a pretty clear line of ethical codes and morality that it wants students to follow. But a commencement speaker didn't actually go to our school, but the reason that we award those honorary degrees to those commencement speakers is because we want to say that even though they didn't accomplish the things that Rutgers endorses through actually being in the Rutgers classrooms, they have accomplished that through their public service or whatever area that they do outside of Rutgers. That's why they deserve to have an honorary degree awarded to them. I don't think that we want to, as a university, condone that what Dr. Rice has done for America was good. It's true that there are a lot of facets to her that are very inspiring, that she is an intellectual woman and no doubt someone to be commended. But we think that having her as a commencement speaker and bestowing an honorary degree to her is not just recognizing the parts of her that are honorable, that are commendable. What it means to actually bestow an honor upon her is that we condone everything that she has stood for throughout her time in the public sphere, and we don't think that we should be able to do that because of all the things that RB and I told you. For all of these reasons, incredibly proud to propose.
Hear, hear. I thank the speaker for her remarks and now call the honorable member of the opposition, Deepta Janardhan, to continue the case for the opposition side. Hear, hear.
Thanks, everyone. Before I get into the points that everyone else has addressed, I want you all to participate in a little bit of a thought experiment. I want you to think of one US president who has never brought this country into any kind of armed conflict, any kind of violence, anything like that. You can take a moment to do that. Can't think of any? That's because there isn't one, guys. I'd like to bring you to the harsh reality of the situation, that being the administrator of the most powerful country in the world comes with incredible burden on your shoulders. It's one that I certainly couldn't take, but it's one that Dr. Rice felt confident enough and felt strong enough to be able to take. And we think at that point, we should definitely respect that. But we think that this by itself, merely the fact that she has brought our country into armed conflict, is not by itself a reason not to bring her on as a commencement speaker. We think that by doing so, we would essentially be barring any American politician to bring them on as a speaker, because we think that all of them have at some point condoned violence in some sort of fashion. But I also think, though, that we don't know all of the information that led them to the decision to go into the Iraq War. We may make fun of the idea of weapons of mass destruction now, but the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, there are lots of confidential files that are still locked up, that we still don't know what the real situation was, things that we probably won't find out for decades and decades to come. So we think at that point that is not the action by which we should judge Dr. Rice, but rather the other personal accomplishments that she's achieved throughout her lifetime. Look, we think that someone's personal beliefs are fundamentally distinct from their role as a politician, because we think that when you're doing things for your country, you act in a certain way. Even you may act in a certain way that people disagree with, but at the end of the day, the reason that you've given up your whole life to public service is because you want to protect the American people. And we think that Dr. Rice was acting in that kind of capacity. We don't think that it's fair on our part to actually judge her for that. So we think at the end of the day, what we should do is choose a commencement speaker based on her accomplishments. Daimler named a long list of academic accomplishments that Dr. Rice has achieved that went largely ignored by side government. We think that at the point where this is an academic institution, we honor all sorts of views, we honor all sorts of beliefs, and just free discourse for its own sake, that to deny Dr. Rice her ability to speak is to deny basically the ideas of millions of Americans who may have agreed with her views. We don't think that's something that a liberal institution should be doing. Sure.
If I I am a doctor and save 10 lives and then murder another individual, should a court of law then declare me innocent based on my previous attributes?
So here's the distinction here, Sean. In doing this action, she was doing her job. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine how horrible it would have been if 9/11 had happened again, if another terrorist attack had come into our country, if someone else had come in and killed 2,000 American citizens. You know who would be blamed in that situation? Condoleezza Rice, ladies and gentlemen. And we think at the point where that kind of decision is laying on one person's shoulders, we think that using the limited information that they have at the time, because remember, we didn't know very much about terrorism in 2003 when we went into Iraq. We think at that point her actions were justified, and that she did do something in the legitimate interest of furthering the American people's security. But I also think, though, Sean, that if you disagree with her views, we think there are ways to do that. Look, I'm not up here campaigning for Condoleezza Rice in the next election, right? I'm not up here telling you that you have to vote for her, to be your president, to keep on doing the things that she has done in the past if you disagree with her. All I'm saying is, at the point where we've invited her, at the point where we've said that at the point where we've accepted that she was a female in a very high position of our American government, that she should get the chance to say what she has to say, right? I don't think that she's going to go up here and try and condone all of the torture tactics that were used during the Iraq War, which may or may not have been to her knowledge, right? But we think that what she's actually going to do is try and serve as an inspiration to the thousands of minority students, the thousands of females who go to our school, inspire them to be in a very similar position of leadership. And we think that that's something that we're proud to defend on our side of the house. So they go on to say that they're not opposing her for her status, that it doesn't matter whether she's a Democrat or Republican. I want you to evaluate this, ladies and gentlemen, because the belief among Republicans at the time was that the Iraq War was something that's correct to do, right? Just because she went through with that belief, mistaken though it may have been, we think at the point where she thought that this was the correct action to take to ensure her safety, they are necessarily discriminating against her for her beliefs, for the belief that the American security is something that should be valued and is so high that they are willing to go to war with another country in order to protect it. That's the thing that they ignore on their side. All they say is, well, we wouldn't have discriminated on her beliefs, but this is actually what we're doing. But the second thing we talk about is free speech and discourse. And I think that this looks incredibly hypocritical when Rutgers claims to be this bastion of free speech and free liberal thinking, and then the person that we bar, the person that we literally turn away from this podium, is someone who happens to be a conservative Republican. We think that that sends an incredibly bad message. We think that that has a major chilling effect on speech at this university for people who may disagree with what the majority of students and what the majority of faculty think that we would never ever want in this university. They go on to say that, well, of course we should rescind the invitation because this was an immoral action that we took, and at that point, it's not morally acceptable to do this. And then Rachel goes on to say that students need to agree on a commencement speaker before this happens. So, like I told you, ladies and gentlemen, any political figure will inspire a certain amount of controversy in its student body. I don't think there has ever been any political leader that 100% of people agree with, right? I don't think that by itself is a reason to not just to deny them, but to literally send them away merely because there is controversy. I don't want Rutgers to be that school, right? Look, I think that what we're going to be remembered for, if we go with their plan, is the school that chose to invite Snooki, but chose to send away Condoleezza Rice, and we think that that's necessarily the message that they're sending on their side of the house. No. Then in their case, they talk about they give you this laundry list of things that happened during war times. Guys, I hate to break it to you, but when you engage in this thing called war, when you engage in any kind of violence, we think that these are like the inevitable byproducts of this. And if you bought anything that I said so far, if you bought that being an American politician means that you need to condone violence in some way, we think that what Condoleezza Rice, what she did was not necessarily out of line. But what I also told you is that you can never have full information on this subject, right? Like, we're probably going to be a very, very long time before we know what details were revealed to Dr. Rice that actually led her to making this decision. We think the jury's still out. Lincoln, too, was criticized for suspending habeas corpus, for throwing people in jail without a trial, but people don't defame him today. People don't speak out against him today. They consider him one of the greatest American presidents of that time, and we think at that point it's not fair for us to judge her on this, but instead to judge her on everything else that she's accomplished, on the fact that being a black woman in the South, she was able to ascend to one of the highest positions in this country. We think we get that on our side. Look, ladies and gentlemen, you are never going to condone anything about a person, but that's because people aren't perfect.
The Honorable Opposition Whip, Alex Jubb, to close the case for the opposition.
You're here.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out here. It's a huge honor to be debating in front of you all on such an important topic. I'm going to have two questions to really clear up, I think, what are the main issues in this round. The first, what should a commencement speaker be? Side government and side opposition both agree. A commencement speaker should be somebody who inspires students, who is a leader within our society, who has done great accomplishments. And what Deepta and Daimler have told you is that Condoleezza Rice absolutely does fit this position, that she was a provost at Stanford, that she holds many honorary degrees, that she, as an African-American woman, broke down barriers for us all by rising to one of the most important political posts within our nation. I think that at a school especially as diverse as this one, it is absolutely vital to recognize these accomplishments. What side government instead says is that because you do not necessarily agree with her political views, that you absolutely have to rescind this offer. But what we stand for on side opposition is this idea that there is always going to be political discourse and political dissent, and we embrace that discourse and dissent. That there is never a opinion politician, and that there will never be anybody of any importance who you agree with wholeheartedly. And that is your right, and that is a privilege that you should absolutely take. And I think the fact that faculty and students are taking that privilege is absolutely correct. But the fact that you disagree with a politician doesn't make them a bad politician, especially when we do not know the information that Dr. Rice had at the time, that we will not know for decades the real circumstances that went into what happened in the last decade. We think that it is absolutely too soon to judge this person, especially a person who was appointed by a democratically elected government that millions of Americans supported in this way. So I think that at that point, you have to really look to her accomplishments and say that she was an incredibly important political figure, and that whether or not you think she made some bad decisions, you don't know what information she was acting on, and she certainly acted in what she thought was going to be best for protecting the American people. And I think that that should be inspirational, coming from somebody who started at such a low position and was able to rise and break down so many barriers. But the second question I want to ask you is, why is discourse so vital? Because side government says it's okay to deny her from this privilege of speaking at commencement, despite the fact that you already invited her. Because this is a special day. It's a day to actually celebrate our graduates. And we agree. We think that we should be celebrating our graduates. But by taking away this post when she's already been invited, what you say is that if we as Rutgers University, or only a few people at Rutgers University disagree with you, you will not be allowed to speak here. And I think that what this says, especially when you are denying this to a conservative politician, is that no other conservative politicians are going to be willing to speak on campus. And I think that you are coming out against an entire political movement that millions of Americans and thousands of people within this university agree with. And I think that you exclude them from this discourse. If Condoleezza Rice does not speak at our commencement, we will be remembered for disrespecting such an important individual within our society. And I think this is incredibly vital, because you are going to be taking away this honor. But I think that this discourse is very important. But I don't think that discourse should be to the act of actually hurting another individual. And I think if we let the fact that there is some disagreement on the issue of Condoleezza Rice actually override the idea of discourse and democracy at a university, then we are doing ourselves a great disservice. But I want to close on this idea of us being a public university, because I think this is really critical. When you take this action, when you actually rescind this offer to Dr. Rice, what you are doing is taking a political stance, and it will be seen as a political stance and discussed as a political stance across the nation. And this is incredibly damaging, because what we've told you from the beginning is that a public university taking a political stance like this is simply unjust and is going to exclude individuals from the political process and from the democratic debate. We can never have success in this nation unless we have room for discourse, and we should not deny Dr. Rice's views or her accomplishments by denying this discourse. That is why we are incredibly proud to oppose this resolution. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
I thank the speaker for her summation, and finally call the honorable close the round and the government case.
Hear, hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me make it clear what this debate is not about. This debate is not about what we know Condoleezza said, because, think about it. This debate is not about what we think Condoleezza knew in the beginning, because we know what she said and we know what information she was acting on. We know that in early 2000, she came on national television and told all of us that there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We now know today that that information was incorrect. If we have limited information, if we don't know what Condoleezza was thinking at this point, we at least know this one piece of information and ought act on it. But even more so, we think it's problematic to even take the stance that we should allow politicians to do things that kill thousands of American lives without us knowing anything about the conflict to begin with. We think that perpetuating this society, wherein politicians can get away with saying, we can't give you this information, despite it leading to your friends, your brothers, sometimes your own family dying in war, that is something we ought oppose, and that Condoleezza Rice is the example of it existing in society. But I want to talk firstly about society specifically. And I want to say that all of us are immensely powerful beyond our own comprehension for one specific reason. We all embody individual ideals in society, things that we hold dear, things that we ought support in a democratic climate. One of these things is the prevention of lies of our own government, because we need to protect our democracy because if we don't protect that democracy, then people can get away with abusing it. This is a circumstance of someone abusing democracy. Position and not spreading actual information around, but instead giving lies. This is the exact abuse of democracy we need to stand for in society, because by not standing against it, we are thus complacent and endorsing it. When we don't take action, we always endorse that action. But more importantly under this, Rutgers University is endorsing this action, because we are paying this individual to come speak at commencement. We are giving them money that is coming out of our student fund that could go towards services towards us to someone who is a war criminal. But even more importantly, we're giving them a doctorate of law, somebody who is breaking that law. We think this is an incredibly problematic situation and ought not be one that we endorse. But second, I want to talk about discourse specifically, because I think this is the most misrepresented point. They say discourse is good. We generally agree, and we think that's happening right now, for example, even if we rescind this invitation. But secondly, we think that discourse is only valuable insofar as it can actually change things. It doesn't matter if I come up here and say things that don't change society, that have no influence on whether or not this invitation is being sent out. But yet, the decision apparently has already been made. That means that this discourse around these issues, even if we were to universally say we don't want Condoleezza to come, doesn't actually matter from their side. Because if Barcheat himself says there is no way that we can rescind this invitation, and all of us cry out against it, that discourse is thus invaluable. Discourse is only valuable insofar as it can actually change things. This is a proper democratic ideal and a decision we ought oppose with our own democracy. The third and final thing that I want to talk about, the third question I want to ask, is what about Condoleezza Rice? Because they try and bring up this point. They try and say to you that Condoleezza Rice is a fantastic woman, that she is someone whose individual ideals should stand aside her political ideals, and that Rutgers University should not take a political stance. With that, I ask you, in which political ideology is lying okay? Lying to the people who voted for you, when we can individually prove that they were lies. But more importantly, in which society is torture okay? In which circumstance is it allowed? The only thing they say to this is, Republicans believed it at the time. Perhaps Republicans believed it because of the very lie that was given to support that political ideology, because of the narrative that was changed to create support for this plan. It's almost like democracy, in order to be meaningful, must also be informed. That is the vital stance that we take on our side. But also, to quote Stannis Baratheon, I want to say that the good does not wash out the bad, nor the bad the good. It doesn't matter of my personal attributes. I might be the President of the United States, but if I shoot my friend, if I shoot my fellow citizen, I am a murderer first. That is what creates societies of law. Because just because if I do one thing, just because I come out of Alabama, just because I go through social change, does not absolve me against crimes against humanity specifically, and that is exactly what we are condoning by not taking stances against Condoleezza Rice. Today, you have this chance to stand for something, and understand that if we don't stand for something, we then fall for anything. So proud to propose.
At this time, we have about 10 minutes for questions. If people want to line up at the center microphone and ask a brief question of anyone who conducted the debate about the topic of the debate, that is more than welcome.
Anyone else want to ask a question, please just line up here. It's at 10 minutes, so take a question first, please.
All right, go ahead.
Hi. This is not working. Work. There we go. All right. A very simple question for side government. What politician would you condone inviting for a commencement speech?
We wouldn't. We would rather Rutgers be apolitical.
Okay, next question.
All right. Great job, both sides. Very interesting debate. This is for side government. I would just like to get you guys' morality involved in this case, because I think those on the Republican side, which I happen to be on, do not see it as an uncomplicated issue. They see claims and counterclaims of human rights being violated and atrocities occurring specifically in Iraq under Saddam Hussein, who is most humanitarian rights organizations agree killed upwards of 1 million people in the entirety of his tenure. So I would just like to get your opinion on the moral calculus of this. Do you just reject ends versus means kind of thinking on it? Would you say that, while this is bad, it is worse to intervene in this sovereign country? Just to get your side.
So, fine if the American people say, because Saddam Hussein had this genocide, because of these injustices, that's totally fine. But undermining democratic will with information is just an affront to democracy itself.
All right, next question.
This is for the opposition. You argued that rescinding the invitation of Condoleezza Rice and would infringe on her free speech, but the decision to make her commencement speaker was solely done by the Board of Governors without the consultation of the Faculty Council. So isn't that denying their free speech in the process of appointing a commencement speaker and honoring a law degree and $35,000?
Hi. So first of all, it's totally unclear whether the Board of Governors and how many people actually knew about Condoleezza Rice. I've read differing reports. Literally each hour I'm reading one that says they knew and another one saying that they don't know. So again, that's unclear. But I do somewhat stand by what I said in my speech and what they supported, which is that any you bring to Rutgers. Any commencement speaker, any person is going to be a cause for controversy. Like, if they've actually accomplished anything in their life, if they've really done anything of note, I don't think that there are 100% of people who are going to, like, I think that by extending this invitation and then saying, well, no, people happen to disagree with it. We think that what that does is send the message that if you are a conservative Republican, if you are someone who the majority of students disagree with, whose views are already represented, by the way, you're not worthy of being our commencement speaker. And I don't think that's a good message that we want to send.
Yeah, but our schools are made of our students, so that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, I'm sorry. My question wasn't for you, sorry. I have a question for the gentleman in the suit. You said you were defending Condoleezza Rice by saying that she used, or she complied in the use of advanced interrogation techniques, some BS that you called it. Was there a single shred of evidence that you so have claimed to save American lives or thousands of American lives from such advanced interrogation techniques? Was there a shred of evidence ever produced at the committee hearings or ever presented? Could you please clarify that?
Let's just, Let's just please keep all questions polite. Thank you. Here.
Thank you for that question. So we're going to say that insofar as we've elected her to be one of the representing members of this country, and insofar as she's a Secretary of State, we can say that she acted upon the best knowledge that she had at the moment, insofar as we still have not fully clear evidence of what happened, what documents she was aware of, and what she had available to her. So we were perfectly fine with saying that she took the action which best supported American ideals, or best supported this country in order to protect the citizens here.
Next question.
Sides for interesting arguments. I actually want to question side opposition about an interesting argument that was made. The argument was made that commencement speaker invited Condoleezza Rice, her personal morals and her personal honor sort of divorced from her reality and her occupation. I would ask, is it because she's a politician that that she is afforded this, very interesting sort of honor, that her personal character is divorced from the clearly egregious things that she engaged in? This is someone who we as a university are saying that our graduates, our commencement attendees should be emulating. She has blood dripping from her hands. If we are to follow in her footsteps, why should we be forced to tread on that very floor?
So I think what we on side opposition are supporting is not necessarily that you can't evaluate her political actions at all, but that any political person of any power, or really any commencement speaker who you've ever heard of, is going to have things that you disagree with, and that is not a reason in and of itself to invalidate that. But also that we will never know the counterfactual. We will never know what would have happened if somebody else was in Dr. Rice's position, especially when this was a democratically elected American president who appointed her, and we don't know what information she was acting on at the time. We won't know for decades what was actually happening, what she knew at the time versus what other people knew at the time and what she was told. And I think it is also very unlikely in this scenario that she would have had a large piece of sway with an entire administration that had a particular agenda. So I think that what we're saying is not that you can't evaluate their politics at all, but that you are always going to disagree with something that somebody did politically. And that doesn't invalidate the fact that they are important.
Is Toni Morrison someone who a lot of people would disagree with?
I think that
you said that problems can be brought up against anyone who would cause controversy.
So I think that there are people who would disagree with the way that Toni Morrison writes her graphic descriptions of things. And again, that's a good point in and of itself. Do we only ever want to invite artists, authors, people who are definitely worthy of recognition in a public forum and in a public setting, but we think that politicians too have something valuable to offer, insofar as they have chosen to publicly serve, insofar as the responsibility of whatever happened to the United States fell on Condoleezza Rice's shoulders. We think that she occupies a unique space in the public sphere, and that it's perfectly respectable to invite her in this situation.
2 or 3 more questions, probably, yeah.
So there's a lot of heat in the room. First of all, congratulations to all the debaters. You guys are really good, really dope discussion. So my question is for side opposition. So you make a really good point about how Condoleezza Rice broke through a lot of barriers and broke through a lot of oppression. But I ask, are those standards, do they really matter at the point that breaking those barriers of oppression were then used to incur oppression, not just against people in Iraq, but also against the American population through food and lives?
I think that when we're talking about like a specific leader, that evaluating that she did actually overcome a lot of things and that she did break through barriers for all women in these kinds of positions. And I think that when you're talking, you know, there is a lot of debate today about what happened in 2003 and leading up to those events. Lots of people, even in this room, disagree with that. And I think that it's totally legitimate to disagree with what happened, to have a certain political view about what happened. But that doesn't mean that it was necessarily wrong or that Dr. Rice herself is culpable for the entire acts of administration that America staunchly supported at the time and elected into power. So I don't think it's fair to say that this was oppression necessarily. And I think that the fact that there is lots of political discourse in this room and at this university about that means that it is certainly still an open question, probably one that we'll never be able to answer.
All right, 2 or 3 more.
Hi, this is to the side opposition. I want you to clarify a point when you said that Dr. Rice was acting based on the information that she had and that we don't know how much information they had. But I have a report from 2001 by the UN stating that to date found no evidence or plausible indication of the revival of a nuclear weapons program in Iraq. And this is just one of a myriad of reports that has said that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction and the US was acting in a very subjective manner. Can you please clarify when you say that Dr. Rice does not have the evidence to say that what she was telling the US population was a lie?
There are 2 important words at the beginning of that report, and that's to date. Like, there are a lot of things that are still classified, like I said, a lot of details that can never come out. I also think that at the time, like, they had inside sources, and the administration had, like, certain spies or certain reports of weapons of mass destruction. So we think that Condoleezza Rice.
Can I just clarify something? Sorry. After 1992, the UN had launched investigations every single year to check different sites to see if there were weapons of mass destruction. So this is taken after 10 years of investigation, just to clarify.
Right. So.
But what DISA is trying to say. What DISA was trying to say is that that information may be correct, and we have better knowledge now and better hindsight now looking at the issue, but that it is very possible that Dr. Rice, acting as Secretary of State, was told information in closed meetings that we didn't have privilege with, that the United States itself had investigations within Iraq, had sources within Iraq that said that there were weapons of mass destruction. And I would challenge anybody in this room, when acting as Secretary of State to defend this country, to go against an entire administration and say, I disagree with this, I disagree with sources that say this is going to risk American lives. And I think that it's a hard decision and one that we should absolutely disagree with and talk about. But that doesn't necessarily make her responsible for this, especially not as part of an entire democracy.
All right, last question. Ideally, a question for the government, if anyone has one.
Hello, this is for Gov. Just out of curiosity. So, given that if we do resend this invitation, who do you plan to invite afterwards, or for example next year, who is really prominent and really respected that, you know, a person a lot of students want to go and listen to, who will now also accept your invitation?
We're going to take turns with this because we have different opinions. I'd invite Colin Powell because it's like a really stark contrast of like standing up against the Bush administration and just saying, I'm not going to deal with this scenario. I don't want to be like a part of like the Iraq war.
I don't have a specific person in mind, but I highly doubt that there aren't any more accomplished people in the world that haven't committed crimes against humanity. And also, I would be fine with not having a commencement speaker. I would be fine with not having a commencement speaker if it meant that we didn't waste those $35,000 spending it on somebody who is basically a war criminal and just having it be, I don't know, like a fund for students' tuition or something to that effect.
If it wasn't obvious from my closing speech, probably George R. R. Martin, maybe.
You're here.
I like
All right, thank you all for your questions. I know lots of you have many more questions. If we could just take a moment to thank the 6 debaters. And we want to thank RUSA again for inviting us here. And remind everyone that the debaters in this round did not necessarily represent their own personal viewpoints, so please here. To that. As I understand it now, there's going to be a brief break, and then RUSA is going to finalize their debate on this topic and have a vote. So please feel free to stick around for that.
Everyone, I still need everyone to listen. So when we take attendance, we are also going to have a ballot with everyone's name on it, all right? So we will, for every single voting member, all right? So if you are a voting member and you come up here and you do not with your name on it, you will not be allowed to vote. So you need to let us know. I need everyone to please quiet down. Thank you. So, if you don't have it, you need to let me know right away. So voting members, please make your way up here to this table to get an agenda and a ballot, please. Also, be careful, polite, all that stuff. All right. So I'm going to go through the, okay. Everybody? Okay, so I'm going to go through, I really need everybody to be quiet so everyone can hear. I'm going to go through the, what is this called? The name list? Roster, thank you. Thank you, always there for me. I'm going to go through the roster, and if, these are the people who have not yet received a ballot. So if your name is here, then you probably have to come up here and get a ballot. Tatiana Ades, James Carroll, Brian Chin, LaRoche, I can't pronounce your last name, Jordan Davis, Seema Devnani, Chara Dewan, Michael Durla, Jared Foreman, Kyle Holder, Justin Lucero, Pam Navrot, Jaisal Patel, Krupa Patel, Vishal Patel, Lucy Rojas, Priyesh Shah, Jacob Schulman, David Tao, Kyle Varner, Ani Vodala, and Austin Yip. So if your name has been called, that means that we do not know that you are here. Therefore, we will not count your vote.
All right, everyone, I will call this meeting to order in 1 minute. I politely request you all be silent. Thank you, Justin. It is imperative that we get through this. This is a very serious matter that touches a lot of our lives. So I ask for the utmost respect, no matter what position you hold. Thank you. In 1 minute, we will begin. Wow. I got their attention.
Jaisal Patel, are you here? If you are, can you please come to the front?
All right, now, everyone who has not gotten an agenda, the agendas are going to be over here. So if you are a member of the public or someone from RUSA who has not gotten an agenda yet, you're welcome to. And I'll be standing next to the agendas.
Hello? Alright, so we're also going to ask that everyone please fill all the available seats. And if you are sitting in the back, please be quiet, please don't interrupt anyone, and you're gonna break on me? Side conversations, because we want to be able to hear all the speakers here. It's just respectful. So feel free to stay in the back because there aren't enough seats, but please just be respectful. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you need an agenda. We have like 20 or so left, so if members of the public want one, feel free. Oh. All right, calling to order. So can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. All right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will begin with officer reports, the approval of the agenda, and then get down to business. So without further ado, I actually have no report other than the constitution we presented.
After?
So Stephanie,
Member of the
officer
week.
reports.
Member of the
All
week.
right. Oh. Wait, we're doing after. All right. Like I said during e-board for the chairs that weren't there, it's that fun time of the year where we're getting near elections and we're going to transition into a new administration, all that fun stuff. So that means that we're going to have these awesome reports that the committee chairs are going to write up. And if you're a committee member, please feel free to help your committee chairs out. It's essentially going to be so that's going to include not just things like, you know, what is your job description, but what really is your job description, you know? you've developed relationships with, all that fun stuff. I'm going to work with Lori, hopefully within the next week, to come up with a template. And it's going to be mandatory for all committee chairs, and I strongly encourage all e-board members to do that as well.
As for me, I do not have any announcements besides that. RUSA Allocations is now accepting applications. If you choose to be a member of the Allocations Board, we function a little bit differently than the general body because they are not voted in. There's an application process. If you want to find more information about that, I believe that I posted it on Facebook. If not, you can talk to me about it. Also, budgets are due, I think, in the next 2 weeks for student organizations. I can give you an actual date on that. They've kind of slipped my mind right now, but yeah, that's kind of about it. Yes, Lori?
Point of information, there's budget help night on March 31st.
Yes. Oh, that's this coming Monday. If you need help with your budget, if you are a part of an organization, the officer of an organization, you can come to us. We are going to be on the 4th floor of the RSC in the room where we have our appeals. And you can come to us and we will try to help you budget your events. That's it.
I have no reports at this time. Next we'll have the SAS Senate Leader, Board of Governors, Board of Trustees, and Organizing Director speak, and then I'd like the committee chair to line up at that microphone over there and give reports. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Baffel. I'm the School of Arts and Science Senate Leader. I'm also the Board of Trustees Student Representative. My biggest update is that on April 8th, we're going to have a tuition hearing. It's going to be in the second floor multi-purpose room of the Student Center, Rutgers Student Center. We have a really great turnout tonight, and I would like to see the same thing on April 8th. Also, at the last Board of Trustees meeting, they passed out great things to know about Rutgers, so I'm just going to pass those around to each side. Please take a look at it. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone, my name is Joe Passion. I'm the student representative for the Rutgers Board of Governors, and I just want to reiterate, repetition is a good thing. April 8th, 7 o'clock, multi-purpose room. Would love to see a lot of people out. It's on budget, tuition, and student fees. So if you have anything to talk about, any one of those things, come and talk out. You don't like the lack of transparency in the budget. You don't like tuition keep going up. You want to see more student fees. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Come out, speak up. If you have any questions about that, please talk to me. Thank you.
Joe, Lori has a question for you.
How did they get on the agenda?
So if you would like to speak on April 8th at the multipurpose room in the Student Center, please feel free to email secretary@oldqueens.rutgers.edu. If that wasn't clear, it'll be in the minutes. If it still wasn't clear, jpassion@rutgers.edu. Come speak to me. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I have one more report. There's going to be a University Senate meeting tomorrow. It will start at 10 a.m. It'll be in the Rutgers Student Center. Thank you.
Hey all, my name is Margarita. I'm organizing director. My report backs are that yesterday, the first Advocacy Day training happened yesterday. Thank you for all of those who came out. For those of you that don't know, RUSA endorsed e-campaign to fight for higher state appropriations on the state level in conjunction with groups like New Jersey United Students and the Rutgers Student Union. So the next one will be on April 8th. On April 11th, which is a Friday at 6 p.m. and I hope to see all of you there. E-board members and myself will be reaching out to you all individually or to RUSA members individually to talk about future involvement in the higher state appropriations campaign. And that is all.
Hi, I'm Brian Lake. I'm the Athletic Affairs Chair. For those of you who don't know, Athletic Affairs is a new committee. It's meant to be a liaison for the students to the athletic department. We just had a meeting with the athletic department a couple hours ago. We're working on edits for their new ticket lottery claim process. Working on logistics for game day, We mentioned bringing buses from Cook Douglas straight to the football games. We're also just working on ways of making pregame activities more fun, more inclusive for the student body. And that's pretty much it from our perspective.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Wolf. I am the PR chair and the elections chair. I'll give my PR chair message first. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. In 3 years I've been in RUSA, this is probably the most packed I've ever seen it, which is a good thing. Civil discourse. Also, if you are on the Twitter sphere, please follow us. Our handle is @ruassembly.com. Saw some good stuff with New Brunswick today, as well as Rutgers. So go on there. We were live during the meeting, stuff like that. Yeah. And then also for elections, you have a little under 2 hours. Sorry, you have a little under 2 hours to clear your candidacy. If you do want to run in the spring 2014 RUSA elections, there's still a bunch of open seats. We have a lot of people running also for other contested seats. But if you go to ruassembly.com, you can find out more information on that. I really encourage a lot of people to apply and run in the elections.
I forgot to mention this. Next week, we have Julie Herman coming in for her town hall. So, RUSA members, when we send out the flyer for that, promote that, and just be ready for that.
Hi everyone, I'm the Legislative Affairs Chair. My name is Francine Glazer. Also in my 3 years in RUSA, this was an incredible turnout. I'm really proud that all of you showed and that everyone had something to say. So for the Legislative Affairs Committee, we're working on the State Appropriations Campaign, which is also run by NJUS, which is New Jersey United Students. It's a coalition of students all across New Jersey and their colleges. And the next legislative training day we're going to have is April 11th, and that is the Friday of the week of the tuition hearing, so that's in 2 weeks. The importance of this is that after that, within the following weeks, we'll be going to Trenton to lobby, just kidding, we're going to be advocating our legislators to tell them that we need more money and that we don't have too much left to give. So please come to the April 11th legislative training. Thank you. And we'll give more information in the near future about where it is and what time it is and all that.
Hey everybody. My name's Sam Clark. I'm the Student Affairs Chair. First thing is that April 1st at 7:30 at the Rutgers Student Center, room 411, ABC, will be having a College Avenue Town Hall. At that Town Hall, Officer Telosa, the campus police officer for College Avenue, will be speaking about public safety, and Dean Grimm, the Dean of Students for College Avenue, will also be speaking on student issues. Please come. It will be catered by Subway. Good times. Also today, I got to do a really exciting, Jake and I both got to do separate ride-along. We got to do a ride-along with RUPD. It was great. We learned about everything from where RUPD patrols to the integration with the dual police forces of UMD&J and Rutgers, and a bunch of other awesome things. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anna Krimchanskaya. I'm the Internal Affairs Chairperson. I don't have too many things to report, I guess, other than I will be presenting the constitutional amendments with Pavel, and I will be assisting on the NJUS-USSA referendum with Marius when he needs me. Please take that seriously. It will affect generations to come. Well, yeah, generations to come. It is very, very important that you raise your voice when you have one, to share, and make sure that, once again, you are nice. I guess that's the best word to say. We all have opinions, and we should respect each other's opinions.
How's it going, everyone? Jake Neiman, University Affairs Chair. My focus recently has been public safety. As Sam Clark said, went on a ride-along today with RUPD. A lot of fun, very informative, and that's the gist of it. Met with the RUPD a couple weeks ago, New Brunswick PD before that. If you have questions about public safety, talk to me or Sam. Met with transportation a while back too. So if you have any questions about those areas, ask me, whatever. Have fun. Hope it doesn't go too long tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, committee chairs. I wanted to make one more announcement. By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Krupa. I'm the RUSA treasurer. RUSA applications, if you want to be a board member, are due on the 4th. I forgot that date at the time. They're due on the 4th, and fall budgets, which is for next fall, those are due on the 9th. So if you have any more questions, you can email rusaallocations@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, rusaallocations.com, or you can come talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
All right, and now as customary, member of the week.
Let's go. Hi everyone, this week's member of the week is Paresh Saab. Paresh could not be here tonight. He was already given his award, and if you follow our Twitter, @RU Assembly, you would have already seen that he won because we snapped that picture earlier this evening. Unless Brian Link did not put it up. But Paresh did a lot of great work in his committee, researching academic affairs. Thank you. I was just going to say AA. Academic affairs, researching textbooks. One of the things RUSA is working on and actively working on is trying to find a way to lower textbooks. We understand professors sometimes ask us to buy expensive textbooks, so we're trying to find a way to lower the price of textbooks. So, he is your RUSA member of the week. Remember to follow us at RU Assembly, and thank you very much.
All right. So now I'm going to try to provide some context as to how the next half hour to an hour will go. So we have two sides, the welcome and the rescind Condoleezza Rice side. So the way the presentation will be following. Joe Cash will be presenting the welcome side. He will have 5 minutes to present, and I'll allow 1 3-minute extension if need be, followed by question and answer. Then Sharif will be presenting the rescind Condi side. Once again, same rules, 5-minute presentation, 3-minute extension, question and answer. Then we'll go into debate. The first debate we have is whether or not RUSA should take a stance. Because technically, if we have 2 bills, both can fail, one can pass, but both can't fail. So that'll take care of the both can fail side if that happens. Then if that vote fails and we do want to take a stance, we will have a debate and vote which stance we want to take. Everyone clear?
Yep.
All right. Also, I was asked, try not to clap when people are speaking, maybe do snaps, because it's hard to hear everyone. There's a lot of people in the room who want to be respectful and whatnot. So, once again, thank you all for coming out, and let's begin the show. Go.
Do you need a second, or?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you got the time? Or
Once again, agendas are up here if you didn't grab them.
And members of the public, you can take an agenda. We have extras. Would anyone like one?
Okay. I'll run them.
I'll give it out. You can talk.
The gentleman right up here, please.
First off, before I get started, I would just like to say that I appreciate that coming out. I'm not sure if too many of you know this, but back in the day, the student government would often have the debate team come out and debate controversial issues on campus. Most notably, back in the day, should Rutgers be a dry campus or should the ROTC be on campus? So we're trying to bring that tradition back a little bit, so I really hope you enjoyed that. And then also, before I get started, Sharif, if you can tell me if I'm wrong, but Sharif and I both feel that the Assembly should take a stance and not do the neither vote. They should vote one way or the other, either pro or against Condoleezza Rice coming to campus. He shook his head. We had talked about that earlier, so we would hope that a neither vote would not happen here tonight by the voting members. All right. You got the clock?
Yep.
I don't want to go over. Thanks. All right. So, my bill tonight is to support Secretary Rice coming to campus to be the to speak at the 248th commencement address. Oh, I know you disagree. I'm sorry. So, I really want her to be the commencement speaker. I think she's had an accomplished career, becoming the first woman to be National Security Advisor, becoming the first African American woman to be Secretary of State. She is an academic, being provost at Stanford, things we learned about tonight. She's a concert pianist, all these things. But just one of the important aspects of a rounded person is that she did grow up in Birmingham, Alabama. And one of my favorite stories from Hillary Clinton is her writing a letter to NASA and saying, I want to be an astronaut. And NASA saying, only men can be astronauts. Condoleezza Rice told her father in the middle of segregation, I want to be president of the United States. And her father said, go ahead, you can do it. And she became Secretary of State. So those are some of the reasons why I really want her to be commencement speaker tonight. Now Sharif is going to present a bill that is against Condoleezza Rice, and he's going to call her a war criminal. And if you agree with that or disagree with that, that's fine. He's going to use some of the faculty caucus's language though, and it's my inside baseball opinion that the faculty do not hold that same opinion. The faculty want her not to come to chip away at Barchi a little bit. They are a little scared. They don't like President Barchi, which is fine. But the more they chip away, maybe down the line Barchi looks bad and President Barchi needs a win, and that win is maybe, Truman's blinding me, maybe labor rights. So I think the faculty are more concerned with making Barchi look bad than they are Condoleezza Rice being a war criminal. So far, the faculty have been the ones controlling the conversation, and that's upsetting to me as a graduate. This is a student ceremony for the class of 2014. It's not a faculty ceremony, and it's a little upsetting to see them control the conversation. One of the members reached out to get some information about that vote, and they were told to email through appropriate channels. And that's something Board of Governor members have done to us, and we got really upset. One faculty member, when Sam Berman said that he wanted to wait until RUSA voted to talk about it, said Sam Berman's no longer a friend to have. Like that's not language saying Condoleezza Rice is a war criminal. That's language saying she shouldn't come because we want to make Barchi look bad. And just the last point, it's like I said before, it's a student ceremony. It's a student ceremony for the 2014s. And I've talked to a lot of those 2014s, and they are not opposed to her coming. There are a few, there are a vocal few, but the majority of 2014s are not opposed to her coming. I've talked to people at Eagleton that are Democrats. They are not opposed to her coming because she's not going to talk about political things. They might disagree with her politically, but those aren't the things she's going to talk about. I was filmed for a class in communications, and they interviewed people off the street. Only one of them said she's a war criminal, I don't want her. Only one senior said she's a war criminal, I don't want her to come. Everyone else said, yeah, I disagree with her politically. Well, she's not going to talk about those political things. She's going to talk about what she's accomplished, how she's risen to her positions and overcome that adversity. Someone put on the Facebook group for the debate tonight, one of her quotes was, when I was appointed Secretary of State, I finally got the feeling that maybe the world will understand, maybe the world will understand that a black woman has a seat at the table. Those are things she's going to be talking about, and those are the things that I, as a graduate, want to hear. Now, just like a closing note, every year, I'm not sure, every year there's a name put in. This year I reached out to the student body and I put Ellen DeGeneres in. I thought Ellen DeGeneres would be a great speaker. I'm sure the faculty put a name in every year. 2 years ago, Greg Brown was the commencement speaker. I doubt the faculty or the students put him as a name. Last year it was Justice Long. She was an amazing speaker, and she did great work to remove the death penalty from New Jersey, which is fantastic. I'm not sure they came up with her name. 10 seconds? Okay. And then just to conclude, obviously I'm in favor of her coming to campus because most of the 2014s want her to come to campus. And if you have any questions tonight, please let me know. If you have any questions tonight, please let me know and speak up. Sharif said he didn't want to ask Chancellor Edwards about Condoleezza Rice because he was scared. don't be scared tonight. There's no reason to be scared. Whatever side you're on, ask me questions, ask him questions, ask questions to each other. I don't want anyone to be scared. I want this to be a good debate. Thank you.
Are there any motions to extend by the 3 minutes?
You want to hear me talk more? Good. No one wants to hear me talk.
Alright, seeing that, we're moving to the question and answer session.
Alright, call on for everyone.
Alright, Gal.
Okay, so one of the things that Condoleezza Rice will be receiving at the commencement is the honorary law degree, I think. And part of the qualifications for that law degree is that she has to possess the high principles. Do you believe that she possessed the high principles, even though she lied to the American people about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
Okay. 2 quick points. Yes, I do believe she holds high moral standards. The term war criminal is thrown out a lot. She's never been brought before any court, has never been tried for anything. Go ahead. She has?
Because, well, with the war crimes, she can't be tried in those international criminal court of justice because the U.S. is not part of the court.
Okay. So the U.S. is not part of So I do believe that. One of the comments made was everyone doesn't want her to come by the debaters. That's not true. Most 2014s want her to come or feel indifferent. They're not vocally saying no.
Proves that.
I'm sorry?
Do you have a survey that
All right,
proves
sorry,
that?
no.
Back and forth?
No.
One question at a time.
Yeah, please keep your questions relevant to like the bill and like no back and forth. Other people have opinions and questions.
I'm just going to go back and forth. So, Bahad.
Privilege?
Yes.
Keep asking questions to the mic.
Mic check, 1, 2.
Do you want me to like pass it around?
I got you. I'm going to go to RUSA members first.
Oh, you the runner this time.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, just clarify, everyone's allowed to ask
Yes.
a question. The only thing we ask is that no follow-ups in order to give everyone time. And feel free to state your name before you ask a question. Keep the question pertinent and keep it short.
Yes, and so the question was, can members of the public ask questions? Yes. I'm going to call on the RUSA members first, and that's what I just told this gentleman up front as well. Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
You got it.
What is Secretary of State's duty? I know a lot of questions were asked about what she did and her background, but we never really defined that. So what does the Secretary of State do? Who do they answer to?
Yeah.
Was she within her duties in doing what she did?
All right. Doing what she did, I'm not sure what you mean by that statement.
I'm saying based on what we heard today throughout the debate, all those things
Right.
that people brought up, was that under her control, or was she serving her duty
Got
as
it.
Secretary
I
of State?
understand. All I can say to that is that the Secretary of State is under the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, which is the President of the United States. She was appointed by a democratically elected president and passed with the Senate's consent, who are also democratic elected individuals, Democrats and Republicans.
Who's that?
Sam Clark. All right, then. Sorry, Alex. Why can't they let him out?
I don't know.
So you say the majority of the graduating class are perfectly fine with Condoleezza Rice coming?
I did not say they're perfectly fine.
Okay, you said that they don't oppose their coming, but you did say that the majority of 2014
do not oppose her.
Right. So besides your 3 or 4 conversations with random people on the street, is that based on anything besides your subjective opinion?
I promise you, it was not. Did I individually do a poll? Absolutely not. That's all I can answer. It was not 3 or 4 people. It was several more. Not do a poll. Go ahead, Luke. Fire away, brother.
Do they pay commencement speakers? And if they do, what's the amount?
Do they pay?
They do pay commencement speakers. They pay all of them. Nationally, I think she's getting $35,000. Nationally, I think that's on the lower end. Traditionally, Rutgers commencement speakers has given it back to the university. She will not be doing that.
Yeah, we have time for 2 more questions.
Somebody motion to extend for me.
Motion to extend time.
Second.
I got you.
Okay, so I think you make a really good point in how, like, kind of saying that. So when we do honor Condoleezza Rice as the commencement speaker, it's that we respect her career as being, very accomplished. And I think that the intent behind having her is that, right? That we're going to focus on her career.
Right.
But I think that when we're given this forum, that people are going to perceive it, and people outside of just like the commencement ceremony will see it to be based on her actions while being part of the Bush administration. My question is, which is more important? The perception of her being in that position as a commencement speaker, as like something that Rutgers University advocates, or us kind of looking at her career in the past?
If you're concerned about the public perception of removing her as commencement speaker, like rescinding the invitation, is going to be beyond detrimental.
One more. Final question. For this side.
Hi, Joe. So I'm not sure if you can directly answer this, but $35,000 paid to the commencement speaker. There was some talk during the debate. Now I just want to fact check that it comes from the student fee money.
Yeah.
You know that? Do you know if that is actually true, or does it come from different money? Donation, maybe?
I'm 99% sure that is incorrect. I believe that money.
I can say with certainty it comes from the foundation.
Right, it comes from the Alumni Foundation, alumni donations. I remember that when Toni Morrison gave the address.
So just to get this straight, that money
is not student fees. It does not come from Turnbull. Is not student fees.
Cool. Time has elapsed. Are there any more motions for more time?
Motion to extend time.
All right.
Second.
I'm gonna go 4 minutes.
All right. Any seconds?
Second.
No, go ahead.
So, all those in favor? Can you keep your hands up? And make sure you're a voting member. Those in
Can you use the ballots that we gave you? Because a lot of them are like, so just use the ballot to vote.
Yeah,
and if you don't have it, then you can't vote. Sorry.
All right, all those opposed?
Passes. Oh, we got 4 more minutes.
No one else raising their hand? Go ahead, this gentleman has a question.
Hi, my name is Joe Antides from Rutgers.
I like Joe.
You mentioned that the Bush administration, or Condoleezza Rice in particular, had never been convicted. In fact, the Bush administration has been convicted in absentia in a Malaysian court at Kuala Lumpur for war crimes, including torture, wars of aggression, and so forth, just to clarify.
So no question?
So do you
No
does
question.
that justification still stand as part of your reasoning, that he is there, that they are innocent until proven guilty, in the light of that they have been proven guilty?
I disagree that they've been proven guilty. I think that they are innocent. She is innocent. A big cabinet, that's 8 years.
So you don't agree with the court's findings?
I'm going to go back.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's no back and forth. I'm so sorry. Just raise your hand again and I'll walk right over.
It's fine.
Hi, Joe. Christine Backel, SDS Senator at Large. My question is, if the university were to rescind the invitation, do you have any insight on what that process would be?
So it's my understanding that the university is not going to rescind the invitation. One of the faculty members had said that the goal is now just to embarrass Condoleezza Rice so that she doesn't bother coming. President Barchi sent out a letter. I called the secretary's office. President Barchi's excited for her to come. She is going to come and give the address, according to him, and the Board of Governors.
So you said that you're the liaison to the Board of Governors.
I am.
And you also wanted to undermine the faculty union's redress of Condoleezza Rice. They're more interested in making Barchi look bad because they have problems with him. Do you think one of the issues that they have a problem with is, for example, Condoleezza Rice being selected as our commencement speaker without any discussion on behalf of students or faculty?
So I think the premise of your question is incorrect. Like I said earlier, I put a commencement speaker forth. Ellen's generous by reaching out to people that were at RUSA and the RUSA people, and they just didn't pick her. That's just how it's gone. I'm sure the faculty have nominated people in the past that the Board of Governors just haven't picked. So.
Yes.
Joe, Anthony Covington, student charge trustee of the Board of Trustees. For those who don't know, can you please give a little bit more clarification on the actual process, how they pick a commencement speaker?
Sure. So names are nominated, and then there's a committee, a commencement committee that selects the commencement speaker and presents that name to the Board of Governors. Somewhere, anyone in the Rutgers community, which in my opinion as a state university of New Jersey is the entire state, can recommend a name. Someone in the state recommended Condoleezza Rice, and we got her. That's what I assume. No students sit on that committee, the commencement committee.
1 minute.
Can we go to RUSA members? Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a quick question. Earlier you said that the media perception of Rutgers University rescinding the invitation to Condoleezza Rice would be detrimental. On what basis do you make that claim? What do you know that would it would be detrimental?
Again, I've not done polls of the people of the state of New Jersey. I don't have any basis except for being a lifetime resident of this state, understanding politics in this state. I didn't do a survey of the people of New Jersey. And in all seriousness, and I know this is up here like Chris Christie. If you keep extending time and want to ask me questions, that's fine. I'll be up here all day.
Thanks, Governor. Sam Berman, Senate, University of Santa Ana. I was just wondering if you could say if there have been any other schools that have extended Dr. Rice in honor.
Yeah, and to be fair, there's been schools that have rescinded an invitation. So I forget the school that rescinded. She has spoken at Southern Methodist University.
Christine Batho, SDS Senator at Large.
Hold on, can we get Saad a question? He hasn't asked a question.
She's been asking me for a while.
We'll do Saad, and then we'll cut it off.
Sorry. My question is that you kind of described the process. So it goes to the commencement committee, and then it goes to the Board of Governors to vote on. Can you explain what kind of session the Board of Governors voted on? Was it a close?
Okay, so every voting session under the state of law of New Jersey has to be in the public. Debate can be behind closed doors. So if there was any debate by the Board of Governors, that was in closed session. Faculty representative and student representative are not privy to those debates.
Joe, Saad Champ Chair. So we're obviously not the first. Yeah, we're obviously not the first school to invite a political figure. Do you know of any other school that has invited another controversial person to speak at commencement, and what happened to that school as a result if they rescinded the invitation?
I think any commencement speaker is going to be controversial. Someone brought up Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison uses the N-word in her books. It's a lot less than Condoleezza Rice may or may not have done, but so people are going to yell and scream about that as well. When President Obama comes in 2 years, which I hope he will, I doubt there's going to be a debate up here, and I doubt there's going to be as vocal amount of people. I think Sharif has told me he doesn't want her to come, and I believe that. I doubt the faculty caucus feels the same.
All right, and with that, time has elapsed. Thank you, Joe.
One extension.
That was
Even on questions.
one extension total. All right, Sharif. Consider my request.
Stop, Pablo. Come on.
It's fair.
No, it's not fair because he wasn't talking. He wasn't talking. They're cheering for him. Come on now.
Hi everyone. Here. First of all, we'd just like to say a huge thank you to the debate union for coming out. It was seriously a riveting debate, and I hope that in the future we can have more such debates about controversial issues. The first thing I want to do is actually read out the resolution because I feel like there are a lot of misconceptions about why we want her invitation to be rescinded. So here goes. Whereas Condoleezza Rice, as National Security Advisor to President George W. Bush, played a prominent role in his administration's efforts to mislead the American people with respect to the presence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and the existence of links between al-Qaeda and the Iraqi regime.
Whereas the lies thus promoted led to the Second Iraq War, which caused the death of over 100,000 men, women, and children, and the displacement of millions of others. Whereas Condoleezza Rice condoned, at the very least, the Bush administration's policy of enhanced interrogation techniques such as waterboarding and its attempt to present such techniques as legal. That's circumventing the law, by the way. Whereas Rutgers, as a public institution of higher learning, should educate its students about past historical events, not pretend they never took place. Whereas a commencement speaker, as someone who is entrusted to talk to graduating students about the direction of their future lives, should embody moral authority and exemplary citizenship. Whereas an honorary Doctor of Laws degree should not honor someone who is involved in a political effort to circumvent the law. Therefore, be it resolved, the Rutgers University Student Assembly urges the Board of Governors to rescind its misguided decision to invite former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice to deliver the keynote address at this year's New Brunswick commencement ceremony and to award her an honorary Doctor of Laws degree. Now, the second thing I want to point out is a comment made earlier in the night that Saddam Hussein or Iraq had some connection to 9/11. I know that incident is close to our hearts and it directly affects all of us. But Saddam Hussein and Iraq had nothing to do with it, and I'm going to quote something directly that proves that. Saddam Hussein, and this is a statement made by Condoleezza Rice on Meet the Press NBC on September 28, 2003. She said, "Saddam Hussein, no one has said that there is evidence that Saddam Hussein directed or controlled 9/11, but let's be very clear, he had ties to Al-Qaeda. He had Al-Qaeda operatives who had operated out of Baghdad." And why this statement is misleading? It was misleading because it suggested that Iraq was providing support to Al-Qaeda. In fact, the United States intelligence community had conflicting evidence on this. And they were divided regarding whether there was an operational relationship. The source? All right, 1 second. Okay, this is Iraq on the record, government reform that within the House of Representatives. Now, finally, I just want to point out, because there's a lot of talk about Republican and Democrat politics, right wing and left wing. This isn't a partisan issue. What it boils down to is a moral and ethical question, and I'd just like to recite some statistics that are relevant to the question tonight. First of all, the civilian death toll in the Iraq War was estimated to be between anywhere from 100,000 civilians dead to 1 million civilians dead. There are 3.5 to 5 million refugees as a result of the war. For 2 decades, Iraqi children, along with the rest of the population, have been subjected to grave human rights violations caused by decades of war, foreign occupation, and international sanctions. 3.5 million live in poverty. 1.5 million under the age of 5 are undernourished. 100 infants die every day. Health impacts that persist till this day, such as birth defects, the rate of cancer rising, and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in children and adults alike. Sharif, we'll give it over to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sharif Ibrahim. Thank you for coming. We want to also re-thank the debate team once again. They did a wonderful job in representing all sides and perspectives of this debate. Now, before I say anything, Joe, I love you very, very, very much. You're one of my favorite people at this university that I've ever met, right? This has nothing to do with the faculty caucus decision. This has to do with us as students representing ourselves and what we believe. We are not following in their footsteps. We are making our own decision as students at Rutgers, New Brunswick. That's what this is about. Now, moving to the idea of this is a moral question. There are physical bodies in this room that have a stake in this. And there are people that are also not here that have a stake in this. These 100,000 souls had families, stories. They did things every day that spoke to who they were. Their lives mattered. This is not about political speech. Can someone please make a motion to extend time? Can I have 10 minutes, please?
Motion to extend time by 10 minutes.
Wasn't that the rule?
Okay, so, what was, all right, if the assembly wants 10 minutes, I'll let it slide.
Motion to extend time by 10 minutes.
Any seconds? Cool. All those in favor of 10 minutes? Count the votes. Though I ask if you don't have a ballot, please don't raise your hand. I see in the back. Like, it just makes it harder for Drewman. All those opposed? You're opposed?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, count them.
It's been a long day.
All those opposed? One. Remember, we count every vote. This is not the Democratic National Convention. No? Okay.
That's Booker. That's your guy. Booker.
This motion passes. Cool. 10 minutes. Yeah, snaps, please, no clap.
So continuing what I was saying, 100,000 people, every RUSA member sitting in this room is facing a moral question. And I want to stress how important this is. Every single one of you have the power to stand up for justice for people who could not do it for themselves. This is the most important thing I believe that I will ever vote on as a member of RUSA, because this can change the way politics works at this university, the way politics works in this university in terms of how a speaker is chosen. In this country, do we really want to honor someone who is responsible for a war of choice and not a war of necessity? Do we really want to students? Please don't forget these things. Keep them in mind as you vote. Keep them in mind. And one more thing. The reason I asked for 10 minutes is because there's a student here that can speak to the subjective side of this, that has been affected by this. She's a senior, graduating this year, 2014, as my friend Joe said. And her name is Ella Shojore. Please, Ella, step.
The first casualty of war is truth. The protest encircling the decision to have Rice speak is not about Rice as a person, but her actions. People who have endured an unjustified occupation for more than a decade. It's about the 4.5 million refugees that fled their homes. The 4.5 million orphans who have lost parents and childhoods. It's about the women and girls like Abir Qassam Hamza El-Janabi, who was raped by occupying forces, her 14-year-old body set on fire and murdered. It's about sons and fathers who were taken from their own land by occupiers, degraded and tortured in Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo without trial or evidence to convict. It's about the mothers who, after 9 tedious months, give birth to uranium-deformed babies, only to bury them in tiny white sheets. It's about an entire nation of millions of people who have had chemical weapons dumped upon them, holding radiation equivalent to 250,000 nuclear bombs, totaling 4 million pounds of uranium dust. It's about the 1 million lives that have been silenced. Rice may not have been on the battlefield to pull the trigger, but she was a prominent figure in the initiation and continuous support of the 2003 occupation. This is not a politics issue. This is a human rights one. As an Iraqi American, I find the equation of all this to mere political differences to be insulting and belittling towards the consequences of an atrocious war. It also perpetuates the dehumanization of people, of millions of people who have suffered tremendously. It's my family members who are physically, emotionally, and mentally maimed. It's my uncle who travels miles to the Kuwaiti border just to stare at a nation he calls home yet can't return to. A home he can't return to because it's no longer safe to raise a family, a home that has been so deeply and systematically ravaged and exploited to a point where he and many other Iraqis repeat to those of us with little hope of Iraq's future. Iraq was, they say. Now Iraq is or will be. This broken spirit is in part due to Rice's contribution, in which she is still remorseless to this day, knowing the consequences caused by her actions. We must look at what matters more in possessing humanity and respect, trumps possessing success in the academic and political spheres every time, every single time. Imagine if it was you or your families in Iraq, because sayings like this are demoralizing. Why must we pretend that we are the ones who have suffered in order to feel or understand when something is so undeniably wrong? Sympathy is a part of being a human, and humanity is not something that is manufactured, but something we should feel innately. We should stand firm in protecting the values that this university has represented and has taught us as students. We should stand firm in upholding humanity. Supporting a war criminal is a violation of these values. It doesn't matter how influential or intellectual you are when it comes to justice versus injustice, the answer is simple. Wrong is wrong and immoral is immoral. It is more than problematic to downplay the malpractice of a person because of their history or accomplishments. An honorary degree is bestowed upon someone who is honorable. Not influential, not intellectual, not political, honorable. Keep this in mind when that honorable degree is tarnished by a war criminal with blood on her hands. As a child in 2003, I felt helpless as the first bombs fell upon my capital city. But today is different. Today we are not helpless. Those who are silent about truth are as guilty as the oppressor. And today I speak for truth. I ask you to stand on the right side of history. I ask you not to take war crimes lightly. I ask you to join me in opposing occupation and international war violations and war criminals. We have our voices and the truth, and we will use this power as students of Rutgers to honor this university by saying no to Condoleezza Rice.
We'll go to questions now.
Right, there are 4 minutes, 30 seconds. That'll be yielded to questions.
Anyone before Joe? Joe, go ahead. Let's get it.
You had said like this is a student thing, it's not a faculty thing. So my question is to you is two-pronged, I guess. The moment you heard Condoleezza Rice was the commencement speaker, why didn't you come to me, and why didn't you put a bill before the body? Why didn't you put a bill right away before the body once you heard Condoleezza Rice wasn't the commencement speaker? Why are we discussing it now?
Because at the very beginning I did put a bill forward, and what ended up happening was it failed in the University Affairs. That's what happened. Okay. Yeah, it failed 7-2 because everyone thought it was too radical to fight for something like human rights. That's what happened.
Well, they voted for my bill, and the LA. My bill was endorsed by them and
Okay, we are not going to have back and forth. I'm sorry. Anyone else have a question?
I still love you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't need the microphone. Point of personal privilege. Was it actually right immediately after the decision to invite her?
I mean, it wasn't 10 seconds after.
Yeah, it was reactionary within a couple of days or weeks.
It was as early as it could have been put before a committee. It was before a committee. I'll put it that way.
All right. Yeah. Also, everybody is talking at once, so if you have a question, please raise your hand. Well, I'm just gonna walk over.
Yeah, Steph is gonna take care of it, I guess. Thank you, Steph.
If they're not going to rescind the invitation anyway, what do you have to say about the faculty still doing it to embarrass Condoleezza Rice to make her not come? Do you still support that or this resolution?
Okay. So first of all, I don't expect President Barchi to put out an email and say, well, if we get enough pressure, we might rescind the invitation. He's going to say we're not going to rescind the invitation. That's just a given. And regarding the faculty caucus, I don't know members of the faculty caucus. I can't speak to that question. What I do know is it's a possibility, right? If they have their own agenda, they have their own agenda. But that has nothing to do with us. That has nothing to do with who we are right now voting on. And Sarah has something to say about it.
And I just wanted to make a comment that recently the faculty council wrote a piece that was published in the Targum, and they made a comment that the fact that Condoleezza Rice was chosen this year was a departure from the normal procedure for picking a commencement speaker, and I thought that was relevant to the discussion.
The language of this resolution is largely drawn from the same resolution the faculty council passed.
Yes.
Was there a particular reason you chose that language as opposed to writing language more centered on the student perspective?
Okay. Because the original resolution that I wrote was my language entirely, and I was told to take out a clause that detailed the human rights violations of that Condoleezza Rice was complicit in. I didn't know how to write a resolution without saying that and still saying that she should have her invitation rescinded. So I used the faculty caucus one because I thought it was the smartest thing to do.
About 1 minute this time.
Hey, Sri. Look good in that suit.
What I wanted to ask was what Sarah just brought up. She said that the process to elect the speaker was different. Can you explain a little bit how that was different, and if you know why?
Well, from what I understood, there was like no nominations taken, which there are usually nominations taken, but this year there was just an announcement made that nominations weren't necessary, and that Condoleezza Rice was chosen to be commencement speaker.
I think Joe, since he's the BOG rep.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
To my
Information. I personally saw the website that they put up, so I just would like to argue that they did ask for recommendations. There was a website up. You actually went through the whole process. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, we can sorry, it's really difficult to hear back here, so can one person explain, and someone who is talking to a microphone, please?
Can you just say unnominated eligible?
Yeah, Joe is going to speak to this, but before anything, she was invited in 2013, could not make it, was re-invited in 2014, so they had an agenda. That's something I just want to point out. They had an agenda to offer her an invitation.
She was
again.
invited last year.
Yes, she was, and she was busy, and you can look that up. And Larry Romstead, Professor Romstead.
Okay. If he nods his head, we're good then.
Is someone going to explain the process or no?
Yeah, Joe, explain the process.
I thought I did.
Well, I thought I said it before, so there's a commencement committee. Anthony Covington had confirmed to me, he's a member of the Board of Trustees, that commencement committee selected Condoleezza Rice and gave that name to the Board of Governors. As I said, anyone from the Rutgers community, which I consider the state of New Jersey and beyond, recommended name. I recommended Ellen DeGeneres. They picked Condoleezza Rice.
I thank you for your statements. You mentioned something very interesting about the role of commencement speaker as someone worthy of honor, someone worthy of the honorary degree that we're going to be bestowing upon them. Could you speak a little more about that and contrast that with the option that we have today, of the person who's actually recommended and her honorary character?
I don't want to buy a message anymore.
Can you restate the question? I didn't quite understand it. Did you
I would say that when weighing the benefits of honor and character versus accomplishment, what should be given more weight? And regarding the person that is chosen, that has been invited, does this person meet the characteristics that we need?
I believe if we weigh accomplishments over morality, we are taking away from who we are as students, and we're setting the bar very low for us as human beings. Morality outweighs and trumps everything. I don't care if it's President Obama drone bombing in Pakistan and Yemen. I don't care if it's Condoleezza Rice being complicit in everything that's happening in Iraq. Both are wrong. What is wrong is wrong. Justice is universal, and everyone is a part of that, and everyone is held to the same standard. That is the most important thing that we have to remember when voting on this.
We have time for 2 more questions.
I was just wondering, what was that section that you took out from the original resolution?
Hung out.
Okay. Well, what was the original wording that you used?
Okay. It was an entire clause that I was supposed to take out.
Yeah.
It was basically saying that it was defining what an honorable person was and someone who is basically of the caliber that could be invited. Those were the first few clauses, right? And then the later clauses elaborated upon why she does not fit those basically codes of conduct, why she doesn't fit those characteristics. And then in one clause, the clause that was contested, I stated that she is a war criminal and that she is responsible for so-and-so number of deaths and that she is responsible for ruining the state of Iraq. Does that answer your question?
What do you mean by
I'm sorry, there's no back and forth. I'm so sorry.
Okay, it's hang up.
But there is one, there's time for one more question. So if no one else has it, we can give it to you again. But if someone else does, I'm sorry, it's going to go someone else.
Questions, guys. Please ask questions.
Joe, in gold?
Oh, there's someone over there. Yeah.
Joe, in gold?
No, to the right. She's sitting. Yep.
In gold, isn't it? In gold?
I have a question about what you think students should come out with this speech. What lessons should they have learned? Do you compromise your morals and ethics for, success, or do you want to be a woman of color to be a token minority in a government if you're complicit in war crimes? Like, what do you think students are going to come out with? You have to compromise a big part of your humanity for success, I'm not really sure what the message is, so if you could elaborate, or if the pro-rice man could elaborate, that would be great.
Wait, you're asking me questions. Why are you giving him a question? It's okay. Joey, do you want to answer that question? Did you hear it?
I heard most of it.
Do you want to answer that question? I think it was directed to you.
It was directed to me. Am I allowed, Mr. Chair, through the chair?
Go for it. If you want to do it, do it.
Yeah, of course.
So the question was, like, what do you see in a commencement speaker to devalue the morals? Part of this debate is, should we rescind the offer? So in my opinion, it is far worse to rescind the offer to someone we already had. To take away the offer, than to not hear her speak. It is my opinion that war is a horrible thing. My religious beliefs say no war at all. And if I had it, can you tell them that's true?
Yeah, Joe's a very religious guy. But aside from that, no. Joe is a religious man. I wasn't trying to be funny. I'm serious. But what I wanted to say was, how do I say this? How do I frame this to you all? It's fine. It'll come up during moderated caucus, and I'll say it then. We're out of time.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you. That ends the presentation. And now, are there any motions for debate? Or any other points of context? Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah, so I'll provide some context, just make sure everyone remembers the next where we're voting on first. Oh, yeah. All right, so just a reminder how this portion of the vote will go. RUSA should take a stance, right?
Are we going to debate that?
Yes, if people motion to debate, we'll debate that. So keep your comments and questions relevant to should we have a stance, not what the stance is, because then, it's kind of relevant to this portion, totally relevant to the next portion if it passes. All right, so with that, are there any motions? What's up?
Are we taking a stance on if student government should care who the commencement speaker is, or care if we have Condoleezza Rice as our...
It is literally those two bills. It is, the stance will be supporting one of the two bills.
Whatever inquiry. So would the debate, so if we were to do any sort of caucus, would it be about any of the debates or just any of the bills or just one of the bills?
Neither. The caucus will be about whether or not we want to support either bill. It doesn't matter what bill. So.
I just have a point. I don't know if it's information. If anyone has to leave during this time at all, please go up to that table and hand in your ballot if you're a RUSA voting member. Don't leave with your ballot or anything like that. Okay?
Actually, on that note, if you came late and don't have a ballot, please grab one.
Yeah. Krupa has them all, so if you don't have one, you can't vote.
All right, so are there any motions? All right.
Motion to vote by unanimous consent.
Pavel,
yes.
Can you just say the statement? If 51 people vote yes right now, RUSA will not take a stand.
Point of personal privilege, no one can hear and no one's listening. So can we speak up?
Yeah, all right. So here's the deal. If more than 50% don't want to take a stance, you can vote to not take a stance. I won't accept any motions for voting by unanimous consent. That's clearly not happening. I will at least entertain one motion and attempt to pass or fail a motion of debate before I authorize any motions to call into question. I feel that's ethical at the very least. So first off, Dan Munoz, I recognize your motion. What is it?
Motion for a 10-minute moderated caucus, 30 seconds speaking time.
Any seconds?
Second.
There's been a motion for a 10-minute.
Point of personal privilege.
Yes,
Can you repeat the person's statement since we can't hear it before people have
Thank you, Lord. There's been a motion for a 10-minute, 30-second moderated caucus. It was seconded. I won't recognize the call. Oh, 10 minutes is longer. So first on the docket is the 10-minute motion. All those in favor of
10-minute time?
Dan Munoz would have to accept.
Wait, what?
Can you amend your time?
To what?
5?
5 minutes?
Because we're debating neither, we're not debating both bills.
6?
Yes.
Fine.
All right, so it's now 5 minutes. All those in favor of a 5-minute moderated caucus, 30-second speaking time, that means 10 speakers, raise your hand. Hold it up while Drew counts. Once again, please don't raise your hand if you don't have a ballot. It's not funny.
All right, all those opposed? No, motion passes.
All right, raise your hands if you want to speak. Drew will call on 10 people, then line up on the mic in the order you were
Point of
called.
inquiry, what are we actually debating?
Whether or not we want to take a stance at all.
All right, so we have Joe, Alex, Anthony, Mike, Endicott, and then Martinez.
Start line up.
Please line up right now if your name was called and in that order.
Okay, Jake Neiman. Where is it?
You can move with your hand.
Okay, is there more to read it? Okay, Maggie, what? Aksha. Okay, Aksha and... Okay, two more speakers, Sam Clark and Steph.
My question is can they state whatever they want, or does it need to pertain to whether or not it should be stand?
All right, so let me just clarify, based on what this motion was. So this debate is whether RUSA should take a stand, which means essentially should RUSA pass either of these bills, or should it choose to fail both and make no stance. It is not about whether you prefer one bill or the other. If you start speaking on that, I will bang my gavel and tell you to stop speaking. The point of this debate is to say either we should vote on a bill, any of those two that are presented, or we should choose to fail both bills. Is that understood? Yeah. Speaking time was 30 seconds.
For your personal privilege, I can't hear anything that you said. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Is this not working?
You're good now. You gotta eat it up.
All right.
Loud and I don't speak loud enough.
All right. Is this better?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Perfect. So as I was just saying, all the debate should pertain to whether we want to pass either of these bills, not a specific one, but whether we just want to pass the bills or choose to fail both. All right. So that's what it should be about. And it's a 30-second speaking time. And Joe, give me one sec. Joe, you can begin when ready.
Great. I said it from the top. I think that the voting members in this room should take a stand one way or the other, the way they feel their constituents believe. So if their constituents believe to vote in favor of her coming, that's what you vote for. But I think there should be a stance made. Thank you.
Just note, can you speak really close to the mic so everyone can hear?
Okay, Anthony Covington, Supercharge Trustee. I am in favor. I think we should take a stand, but I have to inform you, you guys have gotten incorrect information from the start here. I have emails here that there's an honorary degree and there's a committee on alumni and university relations. In the Committee of Alumni and University Relations, 2 faculty members sit on that committee and a student charter trustee, which is a student who represents your interests, and they endorse this candidate. So before you think anything that there was no representation or input from those 2 groups, there was. If there's questions after this, I'll be happy to answer.
Hi. One thing to remember is that we are here, one thing we need to remember is that we're here as voting members of RUSA, representatives not of the faculty and not of Rutgers as an institution, but of Rutgers students. So I have a little exercise here. Of the students here who are not RUSA voting members, who here wants RUSA to take a stand? Please raise your hands. And if you're a student and you do not want RUSA to take a stand, please raise your hands. I'll repeat this exercise again when the other bills.
So during the debate, there was an argument stating that Rutgers must remain apolitical. So I would say that our public status enshrines our right to take political stances. Some of us speak of political stances like they're a bad thing. We take political stances every day, saying that we stand against racism, sexism, and discrimination are examples of political stances. To give some historical examples, the civil rights movement of the United States and the anti-apartheid movement.
Sorry, to the back of the gallon, please.
My fellow colleagues are going to make this short and simple. We are the student government. The second we stop responding to the needs and concerns of the students, we have failed them, we have failed ourselves. Thank you.
All right, so I don't think that it should be the case that because we think that something is simply going to happen, that means that we should not have a stance. That is the same as saying that any time that the government chooses to do something that was not democratically voted upon, that we will just bow down and say, okay, go ahead, do it, we can't do anything about it anyway. That would be the same situation here.
Hi everyone, Jake Neiman, University Affairs Chair. Really important students take a stand on this. Whatever your opinions on it, you gotta make them known. The fact that if we don't take a stand, faculty will be the only one talking about this, faculty and administration, would just be an embarrassment. This is a student ceremony for students, so we really need to decide who we want to speak here, and if you support it one way or the other, just vote, vote, vote.
Asha Parikh, I'm the IFC delegate. I'm pretty new, so I'm just going to read your preamble to you guys. Provide campus-wide advocacy on behalf of student concerns to secure for students an active role in deciding official policies and priorities, to effectively disperse student activity fees, and to provide a forum for open expression of student ideas and opinions. Your job is not to tell the school what the opinion of all students is. As IFC, I never say this is the opinion of all Greeks. I let the Greeks say their opinions. Your job is to make sure that students' opinions can be heard. Don't make a statement on behalf of all students because it's not true. Make sure that students can have their voice heard, and don't make a blanket thing that you're saying this is the voice of all students, because obviously it's not true. We've had a debate for this long. Make it so that students can have their voice heard. Don't make their voice.
Hey everybody, Sam Clark, Student Affairs Chair. Just one important thing, it's more to the question whether we should take a stance or not take a stance. We just have to remember that commencement is right around the corner. And while I'm not a 2014 graduate, I do appreciate the gravity of the fact that if we do take a stance and Condi is rescinded, that finding another commencement speaker will be pretty tough. However, I don't think this means we shouldn't take a stance. I just think that this is an important factor we should be looking at going into either this part of the vote or the next. Thank you.
Okay, go for it.
So my name is Ian, and the one thing that I do have to say about this is if the student government does decide to take a stance, I would like Joe and Sharif to both join me tomorrow as the PR chair and craft a statement to go out to the university on behalf of students, whether we're in support, not in support, or divided, no matter what. So that's something as PR chair that I would like to see the student government do. Thank you.
PR chair making a move. We already said yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. So that ends the moderated caucus. Are there any other
Motion.
on the floor? Yeah, Joe.
5-minute unmoderated.
There's been a motion for a 5-minute unmoderated caucus, which the chair will recognize.
No, I apologize. I withdraw my motion.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. Are there any other motions on the floor?
Second.
I'm gonna do this in order. Neiman, Justin, Trey.
Speakers list, 3 for, 3 against, 30 seconds.
All right, there's been a motion for a speakers list, and 3 for, 3 against, with 30 seconds speaking time.
Point of inquiry?
All right.
What would the speakers list be for? I'm still.
Taking the stance, not taking the stance.
Okay, we're still on that.
All right, you're with call to question. I'll hold off on that. Sharif, you had a motion.
Yeah, it was also more call to question.
All right, depending on how, if this vote fails, I'll recognize the vote to call to question, and after, if it passes, I'll recognize the call to question. If this vote fails for the speakers list, I'll start recognizing call to questions, and after it's done, I'll also recognize call to questions.
Also, could everyone in the back and everyone in general just please refrain from talking loudly? We're trying to have discussion here, as you know, many of the speakers mentioned, and we want to be able to hear everyone speaking. Thank you.
All right. So, was there a second to the speakers list?
Do you think the motion?
All right. Thank you. All those in favor of a speakers list, 3 for, 3 against, 30 seconds speaking time.
Wow, I got killed. Sorry, guys.
I gave you the benefit. All right.
Second.
Yep.
All right. There's been a motion to call the question. All those in favor of calling the question? Alright, all those opposed? Alright, motion passes.
Alright.
We're now going to
It is secret ballot.
question on whether RUSA wants to take a stance. Whether RUSA wants to take a stance on the
All right, everybody, listen to Drew as he explains how voting will work. Very important.
Can we say stance, right stance, no stance?
All right, on the ballot you received, you have your name attached. Write stance or no stance on the ballot and detach your name. That way it will be anonymous and fair, but we also have head count, so everyone has it.
That means one index card. You have a packet of 3. Hold on to the other 2. Just one.
All right, we'll take a minute to take the votes and then tabulate.
Once you've written them down, please just hand them to me. Thank you. So make sure you keep your name. Just give me one index card with the word either stance or no stance.
Hello. Sorry.
Alright guys, calm down. So now we are going to have debate on both bills. The bill that was presented in favor of Condoleezza Rice and to rescind Condoleezza Rice. We'll accept motions on the floor for debate first, and then we won't accept motions to call the question right now.
All right. So the motions I saw in order were Sharif, Jake. You want in? No. Mike, Sam, Talia. So I'll try my best to remember. What's your motion?
moderated caucus, 15 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds speaking time for each person.
Okay, are there any more, I have the list.
What was the speaking time?
All right.
1 minute, 30 seconds.
15 minutes.
Actually, I take back the speaking time. It's just total 15 minutes.
All right, then 30 is the default. 15 minutes speaking time, 15 minutes total, 30 minutes default speaking time. Any more disruptive or different?
Can I move it to 10 minutes, 30 seconds? Because we can always extend.
Second.
Okay.
Do you accept that, Sharif?
Wait, what did you say?
Sam, more disruptive?
We can always extend.
Yeah, I'll actually accept it on mod on this issue. That's fair.
Okay.
All right, guys.
10 minutes, 1 minute speaking.
Guys, please. All right, so. All right, well, regardless, Sam Berman's 5-minute unmod is the most disruptive. So we'll vote on that first. Are there any seconds for 5-minute unmoderated caucus? All right, now this is when we use our placards again. All those in favor of the unmoderated caucus 5 minutes, please raise your placards. Unmoderated 5 minutes. The most disruptive motion before. All right, keep them up if you're in favor. Keyboard people, any in favor of unmod 5 minutes? Yeah.
All right, all those opposed to a 5-minute unmoderated caucus? This motion fails. We now have a motion from Jake Neiman. What was that motion exactly?
Okay, 10 minutes.
All right, there's a point of personal privilege on the floor from Sharif.
Hey guys, can everyone pay attention to me real quick for like 5 seconds? It was brought up to me by a member of the assembly that they don't feel comfortable saying what they want to say. Please, if you can, make it easier for people to say what they want to say so we can keep the space as democratic as possible. And the second thing is, I'm sorry about what I said to Joe, and I'm sorry that people laughed. I understand you are a religious man. I understand that you are anti-war. I apologize that people were laughing at you, and I know this is a big deal to you. Apologize. No problem.
All right, thank you, Sharif. Jake?
10 minutes.
Okay.
1 minute speaking time.
All right. The most disruptive motion on the floor at the moment is the compromise 10-minute moderated caucus, 1 minute speaking time. Any seconds?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your voting ballot placard.
All those opposed? This motion carries. We are now going to enter a 10-minute moderated caucus, 1 minute speaking time. I will call on 10 people right now and ask them to line up in the mic in the order I call on them. With Anthony, with Jake, do you want to speak? No. Okay. Anthony Covington first. Anna, Francisca. Mike. Who wants to speak? Natasha. Wait, Anthony, is there somebody behind the back? All the way in the back. Sorry, I don't know your name. Your hand raised. You know? One of you two. One of you stand up. Shamir? All right, Shamir. All right, the tall gentleman. I'm sorry, I don't know what your name is. Natalia. Natalia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have room. Okay, Sam Merman. Yes, sir. And we have room for one more speaker. One more. Anyone have? Okay, then I will speak. All right, Anthony, you have 1 minute. Feel. I was just going to ask that everyone please be respectful and listen to every speaker when they're speaking. Don't have side conversations and make noise. Thank you very much. Anthony, feel free.
Okay, everyone, as I said before, it's really important that I clarify and make sure the correct information is presented to you all. This process was not given lightly. It was done by an honorary degree committee, the Committee on Alumni University Relations, and the Board of Governors. This decision was made by all three. How it works is, there's a bunch of names that are collaborated between the university and outside that go to the honorary degree committee. Once they get the names, it goes to the Committee on Alumni University Relations, which has 2 faculty representatives on there. Ann Gold, which is the chair of the Senate, and also Sam Rabinowitz. And then there's a student charter trustee, which has full voting power within the trustees, and her name is Marissa Dietrich. Those people agreed to push forward that Dr. Rice would be the commencement speaker. And out of that endorsement, the Board of Governors endorsed that. So by this whole process, I am in favor of allowing her to speak, and I'm in favor of Joe's amendment. Please, let's not undermine the process that's already been in place for many years now. And this is the only time I feel that it has been contested. Let's utilize what we have here that's set in stone for more than 25 years. Thank you.
And just to clarify, I'm going to tap once when you have 10 seconds.
Hi everyone, if my voice is shaky, it's because I'm small and cold and not because I'm nervous. So during the second testimonial, there was something said that we cannot honor somebody who does not feel remorse for their actions. I do not believe it is our place to be saying whether or not a person is remorseful for our actions. We do not know her thoughts. We do not know what she felt when she was making those decisions. I want to keep that in mind when we make or condemn an individual for what they did in their past. We do not know whether or not she thinks about that every single night, and we do not have the right to take away a voice that may think this is a horrible thing that I did, and you are preventing her from inspiring other people to perhaps change their mind about their past actions. I condemn that.
Hi everyone. As I said before, we are RUSA members, those of us who can vote on this body, and we have a responsibility to represent the student voice. And this meeting, more than any of the others I've been to in my past 3 years in RUSA, has a ton of students at it. So I'd like to ask again, this time, on this issue in particular, students here who are not RUSA members, who of you want Condoleezza Rice to be rescinded as a commencement speaker? And please, RUSA members, look at this. Now, who of you does not want Rice? I think that speaks. Does not want her to be rescinded. Sorry.
Very painful for me to actually even be up here because I worked as a medic in Iraq, and the stuff that I saw over there is just, it's a shame that we're even having a debate about this, and it's shameful what she said, talking about 100,000 people who got killed, okay? Talking about 100,000 people, all right? What I saw over there, the people who survived, the widows, what are they doing to feed their kids? They're prostituting themselves. What about the 600,000 orphan children living on the streets? They're forced into child labor. Okay? It's not a joke. And this is a shame. This is a shame that this university. Okay.
As you all probably know, my name is Natasha, and I'm speaking in favor of Joe Cashin's bill. I just want to say that, you need to put the politics aside and realize why Dr. Rice has come to speak. As an African-American woman, especially 100 years ago, do you think she would even have had the opportunity to come and speak before us? This is an honor and a pride for the entire university, and it would be shameful for our PR and us as a Big Ten school, for our reputation, face a staple of our American government and say, we invite you to speak. Oh, wait, no, we're not. We're going to uninvite you. It is a disrespect to American government. And I can say my brother fought in Iraq. He came back with PTSD. Thank God the VA saved his butt. But my family knows the implications of war. I have never supported the Iraq war, nor have I ever. But I am willing to put the politics on the table and realize the true reason why Dr. Rice is coming to speak tonight. Thank you.
Hi. There are 30,000 undergraduates at this university, so the showing in this room doesn't really represent a really strong sample size, a really accurate sample size. It might actually be the extent of the people who are truly passionate about removing Rice as our speaker. Now moving on. You can call Rice a war criminal, but all wars are crimes. Miss Rice grew up in an era when there were 50 racially motivated bombings in her hometown. Now this is the extent of my praise for Dr. Rice, but if that can show us anything, it's that the line that anyone can rise to some of the highest offices in this country isn't just pure rhetoric. The office
I would like to rise to defend Secretary Rice. I do think that a lot of the things we've said tonight about her lying to the American people are very, very easy to say now, but I believe a lot of those things are lies. At the time, there was much conflicting intelligence from European and Arab allies, and it is very, very difficult to judge what we know today through the prism of the present and the past. Places where Condoleezza Rice has been a champion of human rights. She secured the first agreement from Israelis and Palestinians that there should be a two-state solution. She opened Gaza and the West Bank. Laughing at facts doesn't mean the facts aren't true. I'm sorry. She also got rid of Libya's nuclear weapons program, championed rights of women in the Middle East, and just because you find these facts untrue does not mean they actually did not happen.
Time up. Everybody, let's be respectful on both sides. So you have a certain amount of time to speak. When you're done speaking. Everyone else, please listen. Laughing, calling people names when you're speaking, anything like that, it's all inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I want to say the amount of public participation in this meeting is astronomical, off the charts. I'm blown away, and I thank you all for coming out tonight. I've been at RUSA for 3 years. I've never seen anything like this. I gotta say, I'm a little bit conflicted because there have been pretty solid arguments, I think, on both sides of this. On the one hand, it may very well be true that the majority of undergraduate students here in New Brunswick don't really care who their commencement speaker is. On the other hand, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't either. We're in these seats because we were elected to represent the students, and we were sent here to think about these questions because most students don't want to bother. Our duty is to bother. And if we're going to give a Doctor of Law degree to someone who broke the law, allowed torture, and lied to the American public, I think that says something about what we think of our degrees. Thank you. Oh, wait, time out. Sorry. Also, I found some keys on the floor. Does anyone look familiar to anyone?
Oakley Band. It's an Oakley.
I'm going to leave it at the front in case you realize you missed these.
Wait over here.
I just want to start off with saying that a lot of people who have spoken come from privileged backgrounds, which should really stop to further their agenda. Being the first black woman, you're not black. Most of you are white, so I think first of all we have to put that aside. That being said, I work with Iraqi refugees until today. Today I still work with Iraqi refugees. The amount of PTSD I see on a daily basis with kids not being able to go to school because dogs are used to human flesh, so they can't walk to school anymore. My brother was killed. My mother was killed. These are real stories. We can't dismiss them as political opinions or these people's lives and their families' lives are not significant. I don't care if one student had a family member killed. That is enough to rescind her invitation.
First of all, I think it's amazing that everyone's here, and thanks a big to Sharif for sorry, and a big thanks to Sharif for organizing and bringing this debate, because I think he worked really, really hard for it. Just about this, I think she's not here to speak about her role in the war. I think she's here to speak about what it's like as an African-American woman growing up in the segregated South. I know your responses, but I really think that's what she's here to explain what she did. How she came to the top position, one of the top positions in Thailand from such a background, I think it's incredible, and I think it's inspiring, and I think it'll raise the students for Rutgers University to have her.
Snap, please.
Hey everyone. So I just want to comment on, I guess, the tone of the debate on both sides. I mean, I'm going to leave it up to you guys in terms of what you thought in terms of the debate, in terms of the speakers, the facts, to make your decision. That's fine. But I don't feel it's appropriate, and I don't feel it's respectful, especially given the values that people claim to be, espousing, that we call people derogatory names and we dispute over, we use the rhetoric rather than actual arguments, rather than facts, rather than appeals to logic and such, and emotions and facts. That's okay, but you shouldn't be attacking either side. And I'm not saying this to any specific person or to either side. I think both sides have been guilty of this, and so we should keep that in mind, that we are students and we're here in a public forum and we should respect it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's everyone? Cool. Thank you everyone for speaking. Now I will be accepting motions.
Call the question.
Second this. Any more responses? What are we?
If we've made up our minds already,
It's not a which one. When we call it the question, you vote for either one bill or the other. So just to clarify, if we call it to question, we vote on both at the same time because pretty much they're the antipodes of each other. So you have to vote one or the other.
What would you like us to write? Pro and against?
Yes.
Wait, what is the pro side? Yeah.
Pro her coming, against her coming.
So write welcome or rescind. Is that fair? Welcome or rescind? Yeah, that's what the bills are called anyway.
Okay.
So we're not voting yet. So there's been a motion and it's been seconded to call to question.
Well, you said any motions for debate for
Yeah, if it passes, I'll entertain once again one more attempt. So yeah, I'll accept.
Motion for moderated caucus, 5 minutes.
All right, there's been a motion for 5-minute moderated caucus, 30 minutes speaking time. Are there any seconds? 30. Sorry, 1 minute speaking time. Are there any seconds?
Second.
There's been a second. What's up?
Like, I don't understand. Like, if the motion right now is to vote on both bills at the same time, is there like an option to vote on like one bill first? Like, I don't understand like, what we're voting on right now.
All right, so right now we're voting on Sharif's motion to debate for 5 minutes with 1 minute speaking time. In reference to the actual motion to call to question, the way we set up this debate is that logically you can only pass one or neither. Since we've agreed to pass one or the other, essentially we're voting on which one to pass. So, but right now, it's appropriate to vote on Sharif's motion for a 5-minute moderated with 1 minute speaking time. All those in favor of a 5-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking time, please raise your voting flag.
I thought we voted. Call the question.
Yeah, but I'm still, like last time, I'm still accepting one more attempt.
Oh, my bad.
All those opposed.
Oh. Yeah, and
All those opposed.
yeah, and at this point, I'll accept the
It
motion.
passes. We have the motion on the floor to call the question. Second. Is there a second? All right. There's a second.
All those in favor of calling to question, please raise your voting placards.
Justin.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We will now be calling the question. Once again, take one of the index cards that you have. On it, write welcome for the first bill, which was welcome, Condoleezza Rice, or rescind if you're in favor of passing the bill to rescind the invitation to Condoleezza Rice. Is that clear? All right, so write either welcome or rescind. Don't write your names on it. Hand them to me. Thank you very much. Oh, hand them over there.
You're only getting one. Also, hold on to your third index card. We still have something else to vote on after this bill.
Better, but I got them.
Okay, take your time. Here, I'll take it, whoever.
My bonus. Weed. Like 9 years old. Yeah, and even your concept
Votes. Votes.
Any last votes? All right, last call.
Yes.
Anyone not voted?
Any other votes, Joe?
Because I'm ill. Like, using race or gender to discredit using people's race to discredit what somebody will say. Well, you're white, you are therefore you're saying it. I know. I mean, I'm sorry that it's
One side.
What's going to happen regardless of what happens? And then 5 years,
Public sector while we're waiting. Say hi.
Oh, we're almost done. We'll go to the Hog's will be the end, and then we'll. I'm just trying to figure out what to do, but like, you know, it's like 20 seconds to count. So like, for the next bill, we're gonna start. If you guys care, then it'll be good if you guys sat down and thank you very much. Okay, so with a vote of 25 to 17, the resolution welcoming Condoleezza Rice has passed. All right, so that is the decision of the body. We're now going to move on to the next bill, which is the NJUS referendum, I believe. And so if Marios let's come up, and whoever else is part of the bill, Anna, or anybody else. And Steph will be chairing the meeting because there's conflict of interest involved. Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Please, all RUSA. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to either leave or take a seat if you want to hear this. And if you're a RUSA member, you obviously need to stay. And if you can't stay for some reason, remember, tell Krupa all that wonderful stuff. So everyone has 2 minutes. Drumit's going to help usher whoever wants to leave out the door, and then whoever wants to stay, please sit down. Yes.
Can I call for just like a 4-minute recess, just to like let everyone like pee, smoke, whatever they gotta do?
All right, that's fine. Okay, never mind. 4 minutes. So go to the bathroom, get whatever's left of food or anything you need to do.
Really, Sam? Really? Is that your platform?